Welcome back to the Comics Aficionados live right here on Thinking Critical YouTube, your Saturday morning geek culture comic book extravaganza. That's what we'll call it this week. Lots of fun stuff going on in here. Interesting week in comic books. And we do have a very special guest. Finally decided to come back to the family. What's up, Perch?
I'm always willing to come back. I'm not a special guest. I'm
You are
less special than anyone else here.
You're certainly more special than Doc.
No special needs, maybe, but not special.
We've been trying to work this out. You know, you have a very busy schedule. You've been doing some traveling, so it is more difficult to get you back on. But I'm so happy that you're here, brother.
I am. It's traveling, and I've been sick, but that's a story for another time.
Well, very nice. So, did you read Ultimates number 3 last week?
Yeah, of course.
So I did a thing, like a podcast, and I put it up on YouTube where we were making fun of Diaper Neck in the monstrosities because we thought that Dennis Camp had went a little over the top, and that saying that nuclear testing wasn't the exactly amazing opinion to have to say that you disagree with. Do you think we went too far? Was Diaper Neck really a compelling character?
No, it wasn't good. No, none of that was compelling. No,
I appreciate it. It went a little too far, didn't it?
It's like a bad Island of Dr. Moreau rehash. I mean, just none of it's very exciting. No.
There you go. What other hot comic book takes do you have coming off this week? I know you're a little frustrated with comic books. What pissed you off?
I think we'll get into it. Introduce the rest of your guests, man. Come on. Let's not leave them waiting.
This is the Perch Show. We've had Adam Frey basically begging for you for 3 months straight.
I'm sorry to hear that. Adam, you need better taste.
What are your thoughts on Muppets? Adam's brought it up.
On Muppets?
Do you like the Muppets? Are you
when I was a kid, sure. Now I can't see it that they're like there's like a hand in their butt every time now. It doesn't work.
Well, I see that when I watch the regular news.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah. This has been the
You
week
have two daughters. Can you watch a Muppet Christmas Carol?
They don't like it. It bores them. I've actually moved to a new thing where once a week, my older daughter gets to see a movie that's probably inappropriate for her age, and she has a great time.
What was the last movie? Was it good? Predator?
I showed Kick-Ass.
Cool.
Which was a good movie, and it was fun. It had pieces in it I didn't remember that I was not ready for conversations with her about. That about him jerking off to African tribeswomen. But what are all the Kleenexes for, Daddy? That's a tough question to answer. We're gonna do Requiem for a Dream, so that'll be fun.
Oh, don't do that. That's the worst movie in the history of movies.
Oh no, no, that's a cautionary tale.
Jim took his kids when they were little to go see Deadpool.
Yeah,
at his wife's request. You should definitely watch Deadpool together.
They did. She's seen all 3 now. She likes them. Yeah, I mean, I started this whole thing off with the never-ending story and just showing the horse dying over and over again.
That's wonderful.
I love the never-ending story.
Artex, no.
Yeah, fuck Artex.
That whoever the author, the German dude that wrote that story, had the best ability to come up with unique names ever.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah.
That dude knew what he was doing.
Yeah, it's all fun. But glad to be back with all of you. Glad to see lots of nice, familiar faces. It's good.
Yeah, we should have a good old time here. We've also got returned to the channel. We got Josh, was off on assignment, probably working last weekend. No, you were actually with Max because I saw the picture.
And I wasn't with Max. That picture was back from April.
Oh,
yeah. But I'm here this weekend. I'm feeling a little shitty this weekend. Got some congestion stuff going on. So if you're wondering why the voice is deeper, it's because I'm trying to attract the ladies.
You're a little nasally.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling like crap this morning, but I didn't want to call out like 20 minutes before the show. So I'm here and I'm here to talk comics.
I appreciate that. Did you read any good comic books this week?
Sure, Conan.
Conan was great, wasn't it?
It was great.
One of the best comics out right now, for sure.
Agreed.
Yep.
Come on,
there are a couple of issues this week that I thought were really good, and Conan was easily the best.
Absolutely.
And the big surprise was Standstill, which I'd never heard of, and then I read it, and I was like, "That's pretty good."
Standstill was a great comic.
Absolutely.
Did not see that one coming.
No. Come on, Josh. You're a big Authority fan. Did you read Jenny Spock's #1?
I've got it. I have not read it yet, though. So
I want to hear all about it.
Doc and I already reviewed it.
It'll
be up on Monday. And it's going to surprise you. Well, Doc's take will surprise you. Mine probably won't.
Okay.
Doc was very optimistic and hopeful about the future of Jenny Sparks.
I don't believe this.
You might be surprised. She's a little sad in the comic and questioning things.
Oh,
and
no.
all the other characters are also sad.
I never would have expected that from Tom King. So
you as the reader also become sad at the end.
It's very, very true.
I was sad when it was announced.
We've also got returning is Reverend Sully. Obviously, you had a couple of setbacks going on there. How are things doing? You doing better?
Doing better, yeah. I'm actually getting ready to move in about a month. I've inherited my mother's condo, so now I get to live the dream, the American dream, have my own bachelor pad. And that's going to be nice. So, and
are you going to bachelor pad it up? Or are you going to get like some Ghoulies posters?
No, but I have the Shout Factory, Get Shorty, Fargo, Battle Beyond the Stars, and my dream poster will be the Japanese 1977 print of Star Wars. That can just.
I've got that on a T-shirt.
Yeah, but it's the Japanese formatted one. That's art to me, man. Really, it's art anyway.
Are you going to get a Fry Daddy?
I don't need one.
George Foreman grill?
Being a professional chef, you kind of free yourself from all the gadgets of a kitchen. But I do have a personal sized rice cooker that I will swear by, and it's a perfect accoutrement to any kitchen. You can make oatmeal in that. You can just rice and just press a button, and it's like, oh, walk away.
I guarantee you that rice cooker will not fly in this house.
Mm-hmm.
We eat so much rice, it's not even funny.
I'm a big proponent of the Ninja Foodie Grill.
The Ninja Foodie Grill.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it a 5-in-1?
It's you can do everything in it, and it steaks to perfection, salmon to perfection. You don't even have to watch it. I've never made a fondue in my life.
Okay, well, it can't do anything, can it, Aaron?
Well,
I said,
let's not oversell the product here.
Who does a fondue? Is it 1974?
Hey! Fondue's a very chicks dig fondue. Chicks dig chocolate. Chocolate fondue is you bring chocolate fondue out at a party, and every chick becomes your friend.
I guarantee you, Perch has a fucking fondue set. Perch.
Absolutely, I do. You bet.
I know. Exactly.
And not because I'm old, but because I'm in Switzerland, where that's all they eat. And plus, why are you shitting on the melting pot? You guys are all up on Arby's. The melting pot is too bad. Come on.
Oh, speaking of, I brought you Arby's with the extra mayonnaise.
I haven't eaten at the melting pot in 25 years.
Very nice. Who else? We got Aaron Sparrow returning. Took last week off because you had nothing to say about new Marvel and DC Comics. But we talked indies more than anything. You missed out on talking about Transformers and Conan.
I mean, but that's all I would have had to talk about, because that's all that I've thought is good in the last, so far this year is the Energon universe and Conan. We've already talked about that every week. So I was like, what could I really add to this conversation?
Ghost Machine's been good too, but
that's true. You know what? I always forget to mention Ghost Machine.
You shouldn't. It might be the best line out there.
And there's a smattering of good, DC books and things like that. We got Jeremy Adams out there working, and anytime Robert Venditti comes on a book, it's going to be good. I'm just super depressed about the state of comics in general. And, you might as well have had the discussion about the state of Star Wars. I could have contributed as much to that.
We can do that one next week if that's what you would like.
I don't care. I'm basically every interview with Harrison Ford at this point. I don't care.
Doc. And we've already recorded reviews of Wolverine Revenge and Jenny Sparks #1. How you doing, Doc?
I am well. I think that at least my review of Jenny Sparks #1 may surprise some of you. But
I was hurt.
We already recorded a bunch this morning, and probably got a bunch more to go, when we talk tomorrow and answer everybody's questions on Ask Doc Anything. And good week. Long week. Work was fucking nuts. But it's a good week. I'm glad that it's Saturday.
Man, you know what happened this week? I realized that you were right about something, and I wanted to bring it up here and, begrudgingly begrudgingly say Doc was right, but I've forgotten what your take was that was right.
Huh.
Can you believe it?
Okay. Well, I mean,
he was right about something.
I'm right about a lot of things.
No, not really. But, you got a point there, but there you go. Let's get into people. We do have some people want to talk to Perch. Perch, are you thinking of trying the new Jeff Lemire JSA series or Ram V on New Gods? And how badly do you think Tom King will mess up Black Canary?
Yeah, I'll try both. I mean, I try everything because I do everything. No, don't take that the wrong way. The JSA series, I have some confidence on that has some potential to be good.
I like the artist a lot.
Yeah, I think it could work out. Lemire is somewhat hit and miss for me. So, but I think this, this is going to be a weird take, but I feel like when he's writing more characters, like a team book with a lot of team members, it's better. When he focuses it on a single person, it gets worse. So I think this may play more to his strength. But anyway,
that's a good way to put it. I liked his little monsters he did with Dustin Wen. I read that collection. That was really fun.
Yeah, the more he has to spread his the character work around, I think it fits. But Ram V New Gods, I mean, I'll read it. I like the New Gods. I don't know about. I haven't enjoyed Ram V in a while, and I don't. It's not that it's bad. It just doesn't. It's dull to me. So it. And that's just my take, but it's not offensive. It's just kind of there. I'm hoping he does something interesting. And
did you read Dawn Runner?
Yeah.
That's the one book of his in the last 2 years that I've really enjoyed.
Yeah, it was original. I think, and when it's original work, then he has to do original things. So I mean, but anyway.
Well, the nice thing about Ram V is you only have to pick up one copy of one issue every year because it'll still be the same story.
Yeah.
And you essentially have missed nothing.
But speaking of same plots, Tom King's Black Canary, I mean, let me guess. She's gonna, she's look at it. Sad. It's worth doing the beat. It's like, yeah, she'll be sad, questioning kind of her place in things. She'll have a hero moment where she suddenly rises above things. I mean, I don't know. To me, Tom King, it really is the same plot. The guy's amazing. He's getting paid for doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. And, I said this in a video at one point, like, if it helps any, when you see him at cons, he also looks sad and depressed. So he writes what he knows.
Next up from Callum, Clownfish and Gary on Friday Night Tights talked about it. Acolyte has proven again that toxic shippers, Mary Sue writers, and Kotaku are the worst.
Well, yeah. Or is it us, the toxic fans?
I'm not a toxic fan. Maybe you are.
Maybe.
Well, this is the thing that cracks me up is that it's Schrodinger's toxic fan. We're a vocal minority, yet we have the ability to tank an entire show. Damn. Which is it? Yeah, which is it?
So Perch, was the Acolyte a success? Because by every metric I can find, it isn't, but there are certainly articles out there claiming that it was a success because the viewership was only 3 million less than Ahsoka. Yeah,
no, but the budget was all wrong. So I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, it's too much money. And somebody pointed out, but I mean, it was 180 to put it in. You have the merchandise and the toys. That's going to be a significant more amount of money. Now, granted, it's different Disney money, but it's just too much money. And so it had to get such an audience that, I mean, there's just no way that was going to work. It was too expensive, and then it didn't bring in audiences, and the only people it made money to were the critics. So, and it was stupid.
Did you watch
it? It was a dumb show.
Yeah, no, I watched it, and
I thought episode 5 was acceptable.
No, well, it's just because the glowy light sticks were moving around.
Stuff happened.
That's not a good show. It's
because people you didn't care about got killed, and you're like, "Oh, good."
But they got killed in exciting ways. When he force pulls the one Jedi onto the blade that's already impaled another Jedi, that was dope.
Sure. I mean, it's like, oh, I'm so glad it's only gonorrhea. That's kind of how
it's so great. It's so great to have a Star Wars show where being impaled by a lightsaber actually kills people.
Yeah. There you go.
That's the one thing it did right.
I mean, I so many people did so many reviews of this show, and just it's just a dumb show. Like it's just dumb. I know it's a cliche, but when your stone fortress lights on fire, it's dumb. And
everyone just dies even though they're not burning up.
Well, we
Maybe
got that toward
later.
the end. There was like
Maybe
psychic
later.
death from the lesbian space witches. I don't know. It just like the show was stupid.
The power of one, power of many seems pretty like limited. It seems like it's actually more of a detriment
drink like
than
the telepathic Kool-Aid.
Yeah, it's my friend Daphne said about it. She said it's not only the worst Star Wars show I've ever seen, but it's one of the worst television shows I've ever seen. And I was like, that's fair. Yeah, that's absolutely fair.
But it's hard. Like to me, it's really hard to get a lot of emotion up on this. It's just stupid. So it's like I don't feel the burning hatred that some people have for this because it's just dumb. Like my brain nopes out immediately, and it's like this. I'm just watching. It's like what
were your daughters pissed that you made them watch it?
Who? No, they don't. My daughters, no, they opted out immediately. Like one made it about 10 minutes through, one didn't finish the episode. I look over and she's doing homework. And to me, that's always like choosing homework over watching TV is an indication.
I've got some geometry I need to hit.
Yeah. It's just dumb. But I mean, people got really, really anxious about it. And to me, it had all the excitement and emotion of the YouTube ads that come on before our videos that people try and get past as fast as humanly possible to hit the skip button. That's the equivalent of that show.
It managed to bore straight guys out of lesbian space witches.
That's a good point.
I mean, that seems like a recipe for nerds.
Well, they were lesbian space witches, though. I mean,
you had one hot lesbian space witch. The other one with the horns on her head, I just couldn't get over that.
No. Oh, really? Because I like the one with the horns on her head better than the other one. Because the other one I just kept seeing go, yes. She
looks like Grace Jones, man. It's very hot.
They needed something for everyone. They needed to be more in their underwear in oil and then skin.
Yeah. Light says, I'm sorry.
No, I'm nothing.
Light says, I give in, Aaron. I accept Star Wars is dead to you.
Aw.
It's true.
I'm watching Andor now. I'm trying to get through it.
Andor's a good show. Andor's good.
Yeah, Lane sent me some images of like some new hot toys and stuff like that from Star Wars, and I was just like, I don't care. It's like nothing about it excites me. I can't even look at the old stuff anymore and feel anything. My connection to the Force has been severed.
I think Skeleton Crew might be fun though. I'm a little bit excited about that show.
No, I hope you like it.
In Star Wars, it could be good. Nobody.
I don't think there's any world in which it can be good.
I haven't watched any of the D+ stuff. I've read the comic. Marvel Comics has an adaptation for like.
Yeah, you don't need to talk about stuff. They're all awful.
Well, that Salvador LaRocca drawn one for Kenobi, it looked like it was lightboxed right off of a pause on the screen.
It was.
It was. And but being so far divorced from all of the internet drama, the Moses Ingram hubbub, I actually got to enjoy the story of that a bit because it was a bit simpler. It was in a comic book, and I'm wondering on the same thing.
All right, I'm going to need to cut you off here. Okay. I've had an electrical outage. Obviously, you can see that. If it doesn't come back in the next 2 minutes, I might disappear, but I believe it will come back at some time. So if I disappear, just go on and have a good time.
Okie dokie.
We'll have a good time. Yeah. I like the dramatic lighting now. This is better. You should record your videos like this.
I've done a couple.
Welcome to the dark side.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is Adam Frey. Hey, $5 if Perch would wish us all a happy birthday.
I have no idea what that means, but happy birthday.
It's a Richard reference because he was upset that somebody super chatted and asked to be
$50.
Oh, well, happy birthday. Yeah. Is it
Perch for $5? I think we can get you to sing the happy birthday song for the audience, can't we?
Oh, it's back. No, you can't.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't want to look. You don't want to ruin your audience. There's already a decent number of people in your audience who are like, "Wow, you got this woke dick on your show again." So let's not make it worse.
I love it when
are
people
you the
call
woke dick of comic book YouTube?
It depends on who you talk to.
Oh, I just thought you were just like sarcastic.
Yes, but a lot of people don't get sarcasm.
That's the thing, Perch, because your face isn't on the screen. People don't get what you're emoting.
That's true.
And part of the sarcasm is that you don't change the tenor of your voice, but it's on your face, and you're not wearing it for them.
It's a nice, deep radio voice that just rolls these things out. Like, I love all my audience.
But
absolutely, happy birthday to everyone.
Here's the thing with Perch. You can tell that it's like this dry kind of not sarcasm, but like this just Yeah, a little bit. You can tell just by the tone of his voice. I have no clue what you look like, dude. And even to like, I can just see this like kind of exhausted face that it's coming out of, and everything is just utterly exhausting.
Look, it's super easy. I'll help everyone. So watch this. 2 statements. I'm really enjoying Jim Zub's Conan. Okay, honesty. The new X-Men issue by Gail Simone has a lot of food in it. That's nice.
You can tell. See, I can tell, but we all know how to pick up on social cues and tone of voice and things like that, and most of the internet can't.
Yeah, that's true.
I forget we're
too much autism.
Yeah. On Twitter all the time, I have people explaining things to me, and I'm like, I know that was the joke.
Happy birthday! Happy birthday for the
Happy
next year.
birthday,
Everybody
Adam,
has
Fred.
one. There you go. Love you, Adam.
Lays also wants to encourage the Patreon backers to vote for Gotham City Sirens #3, which is in there if you wanted to be the Patreon exclusive review this week. It looks like it's going to be Nightclub 2 #1. And speaking of that, we do need to give a little Thinking Critical shout out. We have a new backer to thank this week. It is Lady Lark, known as the War Lady herself, protector of valors, and really appreciate the support of the channel. Hope you are enjoying all those awesome podcasts that we're putting out. Almost 40 hours of brand new stuff every single week on the Patreon. If you're interested in backing us, there's a link in the video description to that. And very much thank you to Lady Lark once again. And I guess we can get into the show. And I've made a few videos on this, Perch. I've been building my case at DC Comics at their current construction are absolutely screwed in the direct market. There's no traction. Their market share is going down. Recently in June, they had 65% of all their books outside the top 100. And we've got obviously Allen coming around the corner. It should get better. But have you ever seen DC this bad in the dumps?
In the 70s, sure. There's been
they almost went out of business.
Yeah, no, there's been different moments. I kid. I think I've seen some analysis. I did the homework before I came on here to try and figure out what you were talking about. I think a couple things, and this is the kind of stuff that when I say it, this is what always gets me to say I'm a shill. First off, the Comics Hub numbers, which a lot of people route by, and that's the list. I think those are as close to bullshit as possible.
Yes.
It's 150 stores. I think they're highly weighted. But I don't think they portray a DC is amazing. I actually think that portrays a Marvel is amazing and DC does worse. And so what I mean by that is I think Marvel's getting artificially inflated, and I think DC's about where it's at. I think the comic industry as a whole, which I think is not a bold prediction, is doing poorly at the moment. But I think Marvel gets artificially inflated by some of these things. I also think some of these stores went a little bit more on an Energon. It's doing well, but if you actually go to the stores, it's not doing as amazing, I think, as
it's not a top 10 seller, Transformers every month.
I think the first couple issues are, but it's not anymore in many of the stores. Now that defies logic what a lot of us people talk about, but my point in all this is I think DC is struggling, but I don't think it's struggling as bad as Comics Hub, at least that part of it portrays.
Comics Hub certainly are not finite data. It's weighted, and there is a model. But every day that we've gotten away from the last instance of actual known comic book sales, which is like over 3 years ago, Perch, you are correct. It gets less reliable. That's true. Yeah. So I think that's going on. And then I think the second thing, this is of DC's own making, is we are seeing the effect. And I think it's actually, we've been seeing it for a while, but haven't always noticed it because the numbers haven't been coming in. But I used to do all the sales analysis videos, so all the clues were there. When you publish so many Batman titles, it eats itself alive. And that's also what we're seeing. It's splitting their audience. People are not buying all the Batman titles. They're kind of picking their favorite, but what the effect is, everything is lowering. And I think it's starting to finally hit over the last couple months, the main title, where that title is lowering as well. And so you've just spread that way too thin, and you're not getting new audiences in by publishing new characters. You're just, you're making people pick Love the Poor. 40 different Batman books is too many. So anyway. And before they were doing like a Joker miniseries or a Joker ongoing, and we had a lot of Batman like adjacent characters that didn't really work, and they've replaced those with new Batman titles.
Yeah, that's right. The last piece I'd say on this is, so there are events. So for a moment, I want to take you to, I've got this theory that there's really kind of two types of events that go on in comics. And I'm summarizing. There's ones that from the beginning of the event, everything is going to be put back in the box and you're there for the spectacle, but nothing is really going to happen. And then there's the other type of event where there's a possibility something is going to occur and actually will have some long-lasting effects. So I'll give you the example. In Civil War, the heroes are going to fight each other, and they're going to go back to being friends on some level, maybe, but it's not promising like the world's going to get split in half and Darkseid's going to take over and rape all the characters or anything. It's like, yeah, it's just, more or less this event has a chance to have some payoff that will matter. Versus the events that DC have done for a while now, Beast World, and even back to Dark Metal, and then this
Lazarus Planet.
Yeah, Lazarus Planet. These events, everyone knows that by the end, it's all going to be erased. It coming in because they're not going to just screw up the universe. That all the heroes are not going to be depowered. And so you're kind of looking like, well, maybe there will be one or two things. Same thing with Marvel's Blood Hunt, by the way. Everyone knows that event's not going to matter when all is said and done. So maybe you get Miles Morales as a vampire. You're getting Doctor Doom as the Sorcerer Supreme, but none of this stuff has any long-lasting effects, and sales are lower on those events. If you want your event to go in 2024, you've got to at least pretend that whatever's happening is going to have some long-lasting effects. And most of the events, all the events DC has done, are not doing that. And I think that's hurting them a lot.
What is your general gauge? I've looked at a lot of stuff out there on the health of DC. It's just doing worse than Marvel?
It is doing worse than Marvel, but I don't think it's as big a gap as people think. I think, and I think it's a lot of that split, readership on Batman and Superman, those kind of titles that's going on. Now, All In may help a little, but you've got to just get some other characters and some other stuff going. And the Absolute Universe may also help a little, but by the way, the other thing in all this is Marvel is absolutely better at gaming the system when it comes to variants and incentive programs and everything else. They have way more. And so if you look at Gail Simone's Uncanny X-Men #1 and like the newest issue of Batman, which I think is something you were comparing, that Uncanny X-Men #1 is going to be selling better. It's going to have a lot more going on to it. But let's check back in when it's, current issue of Batman and Gail Simone Uncanny X-Men #4. I'm willing to bet they're either the same or Batman's up over it, but we'll see.
What were your thoughts on Gail Simone's Uncanny X-Men? I know this is not DC, but I thought it was.
I didn't like it. Everyone else seemed to. I did not like that comic, but I'm not liking any of the X-Men. So again, unpopular opinions. I think Jeff Thorne's X-Force, it's not because I like Jeff, is probably the one that is the easiest and most straightforward, makes sense of what's going on. They've got a mission.
100% agree with you.
They go, yeah. The others are all poor, and some are really super shitty, which I think we're going to get to in a bit. But I don't know. I didn't enjoy it. I think McKay's X-Men is probably slightly better than Simone's, but neither one of these seems like they're in any hurry to tell a story.
Did you read X-Men #2?
Yeah.
And you still feel it's better than Simone's?
Yeah, right. I gotta agree with
you. Completely just shit the bed. Like it.
I probably did, but I don't like either. So I mean, we're talking Clemity.
The Stegman art is really upsetting me.
I do not like Stegman's art at all in this book. He's absolutely miscast.
Yep,
it's like
he's miscast. The story is nonsensical.
Yeah, the story is dumb. The art is wrong. I mean, the problem is Gale's is just, to me, it's just too cutesy. It feels like I've read this before. It's not offering anything new, and I just don't really care about the animal people. The woman with the magic horse, I don't care.
Are you surprised that we're getting an Avengers versus X-Men now that Jed MacKay is on both books, and he always has to cross over every title?
I am shocked, just absolutely shocked.
Every single time.
That's the sarcasm where you can't see my face there. Just look up on the upper right there. He's doing the expressions right.
Now, getting back to the DC stuff, are you surprised that they didn't remove Cy Spurrier from Flash for All In? They removed a lot of the writers that weren't really succeeding, but they left him on a book that should be a perennial top 25 seller that appears to have just died after Jeremy Adams left.
They have a plan. And I mean, I've heard this. I've heard they believe he has a longer term plan they want him to play out that will lead to sales. I don't think it will, but that's why he's still in the book.
The idea of Cy Spurrier writing anything that leads to sales.
It's a weird
laughable. Theory. Yeah. because it's never happened in history, but somehow now it is.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know what to tell you. I've heard the plan. It's a big plan. I don't think it's going to pay off, but DC does, so they're letting it go.
The question
it's kind of like what you just said earlier, Perch, where you got these enormous things and it's hard to buy into them. But if you do smaller things, people can buy into them. When Jeremy Adams did his 1 Minute War, it was the Flash family that was at stake, and the sales went up because it was, a nice little family book. You could kind of buy into the stakes, and you were already invested in the characters. If you go too big, and it's going to be the death of the universe and the Speed Force is on the line and all that kind of stuff, people are going to be like, no.
Now you got to look. If you actually break it down, you look back over the last 30 years, the events that really worked and continue to sell, unless it's like a Watchmen or something in its own little universe, it doesn't promise to break the entire world up in pieces. And I mean, there's an exception to every rule, of course. Infinity Gauntlet and Crisis did different things, but by and large, but even Blackest Night, all right, the evil is coming. It's going to screw everything up. But there wasn't the world has been destroyed, and even the characters are coming back to life. Or there was a way to get out of that without it being kind of the whole world has been turned dark and there's vampires everywhere, or Amanda Waller's taken all their powers and everybody's fucked. I mean, it just, that's going to get undone.
Yeah. So Josh, I know you're a huge DC fan as well. You used to do all the reviews for BatmanNews.com and all that kind of stuff. And you had to kind of pull back because the quality was just getting lower and lower and lower. You're down in DC, saw a little bit of a blip, but what do you think about DC right now in the quality?
I mean, look, I think the quality is pretty much in the dumpster. So I'm finding myself reading less and less DC by choice. I'm still reading books as they launch, hoping for the best, but I don't know. A lot of kind of what Perch is talking about is correct here. And it's not even just the events, it's their individual lines as well. There are no stakes and no consequences. And it's really not giving you much of a reason to come in and want to tune in to read. And I think that's my big problem, but also just the lack of care for characters and this kind of throw caution to the wind. Well, we're just going to do whatever. We're going to have fun. We're going to do this. And I think we're hearing from a lot of people, do something that feels like it's honest to the character and give us something that's worth reading. Meaning, like, give us something that's actually going to play out over time, so we can feel like we can invest in the book. Because I don't feel like that's what we're getting.
Mm-hmm. Like, I'm looking at my poll list. I got 18 books on my poll list, and only three of them are DC books. And that's because we just lost Kneel Before Zod, which was shaping up to be something really interesting. Yeah. And then it landed so flat.
It's tough. And some people are pointing in the chat, look, in addition to those reasons, I'll give you a very boring salesy reason for some of these things. Some of these runs are just also not landing. Zdarsky's run has not been the massive hit that I think people thought it was. And keep in mind, if you're DC and you're seeing him do the run on Daredevil and it's getting a lot of acclaim and everything else, it's not a stupid idea to think we bring him over to Batman, we put him on Batman, and he can do something amazing. But they chop off the hand, they do failsafe, they alternate world. I mean, it starts to get silly rather quickly. And then you've got Teeny writing some backups there, and then you've got 20 other Bat books. I mean, it can't sustain its own weight. And then if you have a bad run or a mediocre run, then what are you going to do?
Right. Yeah, I'll admit, I was one of those people that I was excited to see Chip Zdarsky come to Batman for multiple reasons. I mean, most recently he had Daredevil, but he's done quite a few things that I thought were pretty good. And I don't feel like he's ever lived up to expectation with Batman. And that's another thing too, I talk about this with film a lot. Like, a lot of times people will go in with a certain expectation for a book and it doesn't live up to that. So even if it's not that the book is awful, the fact that it didn't live up to expectation almost makes it feel worse. For sure. So yeah,
it's a tough. I mean, it is where the industry's at right now. Where anything popular, it spawns more books. You get all these Spider-Man books out there. Spider-Man is rapidly hurtling down the same road that DC is doing with Batman. You've just got too many.
It's already there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, for sure. And I think
for a lot of people, it's already there. That's why it's not moving.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't put out that many books, and then you've got several ongoings. You have some miniseries and everything else, and then you're hoping basically that some reader is going to land itself on one of those books, like one of the pitches of one of the books will work for somebody. But what you need to have a successful business is that you're buying all of them. That and Doc, I'll use you when you're buying the X-Men regularly. I'm sure, like I was, and then you get New Mutants, and you get X-Factor, and you start to get all these Spawn books. I'm guessing you're buying all of them. Am I right?
Oh yeah, I was buying all of them, and then the mini, like when they do the little mini series, like the Avengers, X-Men, or X-Men Fantastic Four back in the 80s, and then the the crossovers, the little mini series in the 90s, more of the ones in the 2000s. That's when they really started getting.
Yeah, and I mean, sure, it was cheaper, so it was easier to do that. But even now, I mean, those of us who are older, we'd still pony up the money if we were excited about the whole line. But when you've got all these different books, and when some of these books, it's unclear whether they matter or not. And I'm not talking about the quality of writing. I'm like, does this actually? Somebody asked a question in the, I think it's not Super Chat, but just does Outsiders have any impact on the DC universe? Who knows? Probably not. I mean, when you can just discard whether the story counts or not. I mean, Tom King stuff, you might say it's nice that, Adam Strange and these other characters are not in continuity, but is that good that they're printing that comic and you don't have to read it? I mean, you basically read it if you like Tom King, but then what do you do? Then you're only appealing to the Tom King audience. So it's like these are all just bad decisions if you're doing a line.
Well, I mean, Wes and I just reviewed the Greg Capullo, Jonathan Hickman Wolverine, and both of us were just left scratching our heads with this book.
Yeah.
And that's kind of almost a microcosm of where DC is, where Marvel is. With what the fuck are you doing? You have home runs. Sure. They're literally right there. You're waiting to count them on the scoreboard. And you somehow manage to hit the ball backwards. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And so I think, DC's got a little bit more of this going on at the moment, but Marvel does too. I just think, the perception of the numbers makes it look like DC are doing much worse. And the reality is Marvel's doing about as bad. It's just, but anyway, I these are bad decisions. You can't just make these things not count. I had the same reaction by the Wolverine title. It's nice to see Greg Capullo's art, but I don't know what the point of that book is.
It also felt like the script was written without looking at the art. Like Greg Capullo just drew a book, and then Hickman had a vague idea of what was going on and wrote the script, because none of the characters are reacting to the situations in any appropriate way. It's very jarring. It's the weirdest thing I've seen in a long time.
It totally is. And this, I mean, if you're Image, you can use this strategy and it works. If you're an independent company and you've got things, with no continuity, it's fine. But Marvel and DC, whether any of us like it or not, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. It's a corporation who has a line, and they've got to put out 60 plus books because that is their line. If they don't put out 60 plus books, the entire thing tips over for them and they become something else. So that is their game. And you've got to preserve the line. That, it was very easy back in the 80s when Shooter was doing it, because you had so many connective points that, people would buy multiple books. The more you go into miniseries or stealth miniseries or comics that go out of continuity, you're relying totally on people coming in on the writer. I like Tom King, so I'll buy this. But the person who's going to like Tom King probably isn't going to buy a lot of the other books, and probably also is going to kill themselves soon. So that's not going to be a customer you'll have.
It is strange. Now we do have All In, and I do anticipate, Perch, that there will be some increased sales, maybe on Detective. I don't know about Action, but certainly on some of those other books. But a bulk of their hope has to be in this absolute universe. And I like the idea of Nick Dragotta on a Batman series. Rafa Sandoval on Superman. Yes, I'll take that all the time. But I've seen the characters. I've heard stuff behind the scenes on what these things are gonna be, and then we get more details from Jason Aaron on what Absolute Superman is. I'm like, what were you guys thinking with this? This is the antithesis of Superman. You're not making a Superman book. how are Superman fans going to actually buy into it?
Yeah, I've talked to some of the creators, and I've seen some of the issues, so it's hard to comment on this. I'm self-embargoing. For what it's worth, the DC book is fun. The Batman book is fun. I love Nick Dragotta. That's a me thing. Some of you will not like Nick Dragotta, and it's absolutely going to be. It's kind of like if you were back in the 80s, some people like Michael Mignola and some people absolutely hated him. I always thought, clearly one group was wrong, but whatever. Nick Dragotta's stuff looks really good, and it's got an exciting pace to it. It's fun. But I do think there is a problem here where, DC is going to have to convince the readers, and it's going to have to be more than just, tweets and other things. You're going to have to convince the readers that this is going to stick around for a while and not be a 4-issue experience. That's it.
What if they hand out trading cards, Perch? What do you think?
Polybag it with
prismatic.
You got to do gimmicks.
Lenticular ones, Aaron?
Yeah.
Please?
You got to go every week, Sully, because there's going to be a new
I do go every week.
and the interior variant is lenticular.
Yeah, that'd be awesome too. Wow.
If you split your trading card in half, there's a red band inside.
There you go. You got to do it. So anyway, I mean, that's my opinion on it. Like I said, I made a promise. I wouldn't talk about some of the books, and I keep my promises. So there you go. I think that it's a long shot because these kinds of things are a long shot. The Ultimate Universe was a long shot, and all of this stuff is. You've got to convince the people who are buying it that 2 years later it's still going to be around and it's worth investing in, and that's going to make or break this line more than anything. And
then it's not MC2.
Yeah. I mean, because we've seen too many. Like, we'll do this for 4 issues and then wander away. If that's what it is, forget it. So, but anyway, that's what we have.
I'm looking forward to the return of the Bullet logo. I'm a kid from the 70s and 80s, Bronze Age baby, and I love this retro memberberry. This is fun.
But does the Bullet logo sell comic books?
No,
exactly.
I don't care. I just like it.
When we're saying that we're excited for the logo and nothing about the content they're putting out, that's a fucking problem.
Yeah.
Also,
optics,
Perch.
Man. All optics. Okay, Joy.
Did you speak freely about some initial thoughts of the Absolute line, and then did you get a conference call from a certain guy whose last name rhymes with Smiter?
I've always given my thoughts as they are, despite look, guys. I'm sure several of you would love for my channel to go away, but it'll happen when I get bored. You're gonna have to deal with it. But look, I when I see the comics and they say, "Hey, this is an embargo," and Mark Miller has said that,
you can't go into that because you've already
what it is.
I get it, but I am excited for Jeff Lemire on Flash. I think Absolute Flash will be fun. I think Al Ewing, if there's a book at DC that fits him, it's Green Lantern. We'll see how it goes. But I do think the Trinity, they're making a few mistakes there. Just the information that I have, like Aaron, when you hear that that Kal-El's cape is made out of Kryptonian dust, you kind of go, that's kind of a dumb idea.
I mean, I think a lot of the things that I've seen so far feel like dumb ideas. I hold out hope that they can make them work, but I think the Bat-Tul axe is stupid. I think the chest logo coming off and being attached to a stick and being an axe is dumb. I think that walking around on the cape like Doc Ock is dumb. Can it be pulled off in the story? Maybe. I think Nick Dragotta's art will probably sell it as best as it can possibly be sold. Because like Perch, I think he's great.
I think this is the best, some of the best Nick Dragotta art I've seen in a book.
Yeah, I think he's going to do the heavy lifting on this.
Yeah,
so if he can make it work visually, I think that maybe we won't think about how dumb the idea is. And maybe it can be pulled off. So I'm willing to give it a chance, but I'll always give like my honest reaction to things as I see them, and then say, but I could be wrong.
I was quite impressed and surprised with how it played out. Marketing is where these things drive me crazy. No, nobody. There was never a conference call. Nobody gave me a call and said, "Hey, shut up" with anything. So I promise.
Damn you, Perch.
But
I was just joking, by the way.
I know such things have happened, but no,
Yes.
I haven't gotten such calls. But the Superman one, I mean, look, I'll say it this way. I think I was not a fan of Jason Aaron's Avengers. It felt like big concepts that got thrown at the wall, and so that's going to leave me with a lot of apprehension with this stuff. Kelly Thompson, I'm honest enough to say I cannot be neutral or objective about Kelly Thompson books. I don't like her. I haven't liked her since the Rick Remender incidents way back. I think she's scummy, and she does a lot of crap behind the scenes that I think she needs to get called out for. So the pitch for this book actually sounds pretty good. I like the concept and I like what they're doing. It actually is kind of exciting. I think it's very interesting, but this is a human being I don't like. So it is what it is.
Why do people keep putting Birds of Prey in their best of 2024 list? I cannot, like, the book is incomprehensibly bad.
Probably because they're afraid she's going to stab them in the back if they don't.
You have to have a female written book in there. You have to. It's just the politics of it.
Poison
I can tell
Ivy
you that
is
when
a better book.
listen, the Eisner Awards, the Russ Manning Awards, all those things, I've seen from the inside, and we were always told, make sure that you put a certain number of female creators on there. And my feeling was always like, what if we just took all the names off the books and just read the books and then judged the books on that? And then, just read them blind and decided which ones were the best. But that was never the way it was. Is you had to hit a certain quota, and it's just gotten worse over the years. So, these lists, these awards, it's all a sham. It's all a fix, and you've just got to go in accepting that.
Kelly Thompson is just to this what Kelly Sue was to Black Label. It's the token woman that can't sell comics, but is probably the least terrible writer currently available that might have a little bit of name cachet that they can stick on it that isn't going to be an absolute utter disaster. I mean, it's not going to be good.
Why couldn't you put G. Willow Wilson on there?
That's what I was just going to say.
Well, first of all, I don't think anybody buys anything that G. Willow Wilson.
Poison Ivy is outselling Birds of Prey by a large margin.
It was a wonderful story too. I got the hell out of that.
But has G. Willow Wilson written more than one comic a month at all in her career?
Occasionally, yeah. She's done two a few times.
She had an indie series out last year.
By contrast to Kelly Thompson, I do know Wilson, and I like Wilson as a person. She's quite, pleasant, nice. You will notice, a lot of people go at her, but you do not have all these tweets out there of her like shitting on fans and things because she doesn't do it. But she does good work, and I do think she would have sold fine there. I'll say, and there's just no way to say this without, again, people going into he's a shill and all the rest of this stuff. I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised by Batman. It reads well. It is exciting. It has a good pace to it. And Dragota's art really does sell it quite nicely. I have all the same apprehensions, but it worked out. But at the end of the day, if you can't convince the fans that this thing is going to be around in January, and I know they intend for it to be around. I mean, they've publicly stated they're in it for the long haul, but no fan's going to believe that. You've got to put proof up.
I remember New Age of Heroes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jim Lee quit after half an issue.
Yeah.
And then lasted. There was actually good books in there too. That's the shitty part. The Triffids was awesome. I really liked Damage. I thought Silencer was awesome. We haven't seen Silencer in years now.
Yep,
for sure. You remember, by the way, as a solution to this, because I was having this argument with somebody at DC, which everybody knows now at this point. But anyway, do you remember when DC did Rebirth, and part of that marketing campaign when it came back was, hey, we listen to you. We hear you. We acknowledge.
Jeff Johns in an interview.
Yeah.
Spelling it all out.
But it was that we acknowledged that you see it as a problem. And I think there was something in that interview where Johns was like, we never saw it that way internally. And we still really don't. But we recognize you, the fans, saw it that way. And so whether we see it one way or not, you're the people who buy our comics. So we have to acknowledge that. That moment needs to occur for DC. So I would say if you're Scott Snyder, just hypothetically right now, here's something you should do. Go on an interview or a channel or somewhere and say, hey, look, I don't understand why people think this thing is going to only, go 4 issues. I don't understand why you believe that. We're planning for years, but I acknowledge that a lot of you are worried about that. So I will make it my mission for you to realize this is in for the long haul. You can be in for a while. Let's do it. DC needs to have that same level of admission of, we don't think there's a problem, but you do, and we're just gonna admit that, hey, that you're right. So we're gonna of course correct. Do it.
Is it flying a drone?
It's my neighbor's doing like yard work. I was gonna say the big difference between Jeff Johns doing that and if Scott Snyder did that is Jeff Johns focused specifically on characters and getting back to the core of the characters. If Scott were to do that with Absolute Batman, he's going to be a bald-faced liar because he's not, like, they're changing everything that makes the core of these characters. And that's my problem with it. Yeah, there could be a good story here, and I'm open to it. I'm going to read it and check it out. But at the end of the day, even if it's a good story, I'm going to go, that's not Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, but by the way, that's not, I mean, what I'm saying is more in terms of people committing to a character and saying, we're going to draw or a comic, and not feel like they invested a bunch of money and then 5 issues later it's gone and they're asking you to buy something new. My comment is
the Jim Zub seal that I'm doing this for a minimum of 3 years.
Yeah, right now Jim Zub has the most credibility, and so does Titan Comics, and we're in it for long haul. If you start buying, we're going to be here a year from now. You can trust us. That's the statement that DC makes. I think with the Absolute Universe, they're very different versions of these characters. So on one hand, I look at this and going, well, at least they're truly doing something very different. To your point though, Josh, it's not Batman. It's just not Batman. It's a very different Batman. And I don't, time will tell if people actually go for that or not. Same thing with Superman and Wonder Woman and everybody else.
Another issue I have, Josh, is they're like, oh, this universe is powered by Darkseid energy. It's like the entire DC universe has been powered by Darkseid energy since Dark Knight's Metal. And we got all the dark multiverses. We brought down the Source Wall. We got into Dark Knight's Death Metal and Night Terrors and Lazarus Planet. And every event has just been darker and darker and darker. It's all been Darkseid energy. So is even the tone all that different?
Yeah. It's all going to live or die when you pick up that book and you open it and it feels, does it read like an exciting book? So for example, the first time you read Dark Knight Returns, obviously a very different take on Batman. Mm-hmm. Are you going to have that same feeling? Are you going to feel like there's a momentum to the story? Are you going to feel like you flip 4 pages and it's done? Like, how are you going to feel when you read it? Are you going to be excited to see what happens next? This comic's going to live or die by that.
And I assume Absolute Batman #1 will be the #1 book that month and do probably 200 or more thousand issues.
It's going to have so many variant covers, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. But I assume it'll be a success, at least out the gate.
It'll be successful for DC. Whether or not it'll translate to retail success is its own. How thick of a stack are going to be sitting there 3 months from there? 6 months from there.
Yeah, I think the riskiest thing this DC is doing is they do seem like they're gambling a lot on, in their main line. It's all in. It's like these are all jumping on points. I did a video on this. I think the jumping on point is a myth at this point.
Yeah, I've been saying that for years.
So I don't know if that's going to give them the boost they think that, hey, here's the start of a storyline. I just don't know that will actually work. I mean, if you guys all go to comic shops. Have you ever had a situation where you went to the comic shop in the last 5 years or so and you couldn't just kind of pull the current issue forward a little bit in a rack and there's the previous issue right behind it? And so if you missed it, you could just catch up, at any time you wanted to. The pull DC needs to do, or Marvel, or any of them, or ideally all of them, is get people into the shop. You got to get them into the door. If you get them into the door, and then the next step is convince them there's something exciting on the shelf. And if there's something exciting on the shelf and they buy it, you're pretty much made at that point. Then you just have to repeat. But, so some of these gimmicks feel like they are, they ignore some of the obvious, but we'll see.
Well, never mind.
Let's hear for the peoples. We got Comic Sense. Older events did damage comic characters too. Do you remember the character Ultra Girl who's supposed to be the next Miss Marvel, but Dark Reign happened?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was to the earlier comment. Sure, older events definitely did damage as well. But I do think there's a big difference between, Ultra Girl not being all that she could be and promising that, Cap Bucky is going to get killed and then killing him and then resurrecting him in the epilogue issue immediately, like they did in Fear itself. It's that kind of stuff that burns people.
Oh, yeah. The worst example I've got, Perch, was actually Axe Judgment Day.
Oh, yeah.
You judged the entire world. You judged all these characters individually and all these ramifications. And then by the power of the love, the Celestial's like, you know what? I'm going to put everything back to exactly the way it was before I even arrived. You guys didn't deserve this.
Yeah.
What?
Which is why, it's so stupid. When the event, you open up the event and you've got like a god like stomping around in a city up to his knees, and just people just flying everywhere and burning alive and all that stuff. Like the same thing with the what was the symbiote goo storyline that Donny Cates did before he
King in Black?
King in Black.
Yeah, King in Black. Yeah, you completely effed up the whole world, and then you with the Blood Hunt, this is stupid. When you see that level of damage going on, it's all just going to get erased and forgotten, and readers just aren't that dumb anymore.
Well, you saw that with the first issue of Avengers, Jason Aaron's Avengers.
Yeah,
there's a dozen Celestials falling out of the sky, smashing into the planet. It just basically got ignored everywhere else.
Yeah,
none of this fucking matters.
Remember when Namor would flood
destroy the moon? Remember that?
Yeah.
In Justice League, it was like, man, if you destroyed the moon, that would literally just completely just annihilate our habitats and stuff. Like the tides wouldn't work anymore, and I should do it.
But do you guys remember when Namor would flood New York? And for months afterwards, even in Spider-Man, you'd see people still cleaning up in the background, and repairing things. And even during Inferno, people actually die. New York turned into this big, demonic hellscape. And thank you, Doc. And, you still had ramifications afterwards. People were dead. And, they would talk about the thing that happened, even though it was it all kind of vaguely faded from people's minds and they didn't recall exactly what went down. There were still ramifications to it that carried on for months and months. And it felt like a cohesive universe. And they haven't had that forever. And I think that a big problem has been when they got rid of your serious group editors that kind of kept all that together.
Yeah.
It's just a free for all now within these universes. And when you lose the connectivity, that's why you have, like Perch was saying, that's why you have to pump out 60 books a month to try to keep those numbers, because people aren't invested in the universe anymore. And that's kind of what
distract them through volume.
Yeah, that's what you get. That's what gets guys into these things. And that's why it's always been a male dominated industry, is because we think about all the world building and we get invested in it. We get invested in the lore. It's why we love Lord of the Rings. It's why we love the Marvel and DC universes. These are the things that comics has lost. Because the people in charge don't even understand what the appeal of these things are to their customer base anymore.
Yeah.
Next up, we got HH and Sigma Comics. Shout out to Thinking Critical from Tampa Bay, Comic Con. Big Two keeps stinking. Indies keep winning. Pre-order Calico Street Math on Kickstarter and support Thinking Critical now and always. Absolutely.
Huzzah.
We do know that Sully has got a copy of this bad boy already. He got it with a Wicked Cat.
With the Boston Wicked Comic Con, I got to see HH German and Sigma Comics twice this year, 2 times in 3 months. He came to Boston, and I hope he had a good time. I hope he sold out. It was 2 weekends ago. Yeah, it was a good time.
Always love seeing him. Have shaken his hand at a couple cons now, and always love seeing him.
He's good, and he's just like he is like Mr. Indie Comics. He's like the spirit of what we're doing. He's got an original character. It's pretty hyper violent too. If you like Punisher comics, you're gonna love Calico. Here comes Calico, and so just check him out. And it's got it has a message too. It wears it on its sleeve. Animal cruelty. It's got to be people got to be punished for that. And it's like you can get behind that kind of hero.
Absolutely. Right now on Kickstarter, definitely check that one out. We got Mr. DC Comics, The Reputation of DC. Is that a failure? DC needs some major victories and everything to turn the perception of failure from the general audience.
They ought to go to the people, and I'm not saying this would work, but it would. You could go to the people who are doing Comic Sub and just pay them to game the numbers and turn for a very low amount of money and turn a lot of this around.
DC pay them to sell books just to themselves.
No, literally, you pay them to just
flip them on
to jerk the numbers up. Yeah,
on the eBay.
No, like literally, you pay that software company to give you better numbers.
Oh, bypass the stores and just go to Comics Hub. Juice the numbers.
You don't even have to make comics at that point. Just say that you did.
Yeah, no, I'm just. This industry is so screwed up. Of a lot of the sites, whether it's the traditional news sites or software like this, like if you think any of this stuff's on the level, you're out of your mind. Like the favors get done all the time. If you ever look at Bleeding Cool, you notice the writers they hype, they're always the same people. It's all of this is incestuous like crazy. It's so yeah, I'm just saying you could bribe your way into better marketing now.
But that last big DC success really was Dark Knight's Battle, I guess. Feels like.
Yeah. Probably.
They could use something.
Yeah. None of what I said, by the way, fixes bad books, but it is what it is.
True. Jose the Beast, DC hurt Josh Williamson by having to do too many books. He said he was burning the candle on both ends on his Substack, less titles and focus on quality. You definitely felt that throughout everything Williamson was doing, Josh. And Williamson already has an issue with ending stories in an exciting manner, but once you had him on Batman and Robin and Green Arrow and Superman, and he's doing an event and all this stuff, it was too much.
Yeah, and then factor in the fact that he was the one trying to hype up his own event, and DC kind of wasn't really backing him on some things. Yeah, I get it. I mean, anytime you overload someone's work, you're going to lose quality. We see this across the board, not just in comics. We see it in film, we see it in television. But when you do too much, you're not going to get that focus and that attention to detail that makes the difference when we get these books. But
he feels like a different dude on Duke.
Yeah, I was gonna say you read Duke and you're like, this is what the guy can do if you let him kind of do his thing and give him the time and space to do it. So
Jed McKay's on too many books right now. Clearly,
agreed.
It's hurting his quality, and it's not good for him. You could argue this may have been the reason why you get writers at Marvel builds up, and then the next thing you know, they're drunk and peeing at somebody's birthday party. Yeah.
Very nice. Callum, I'm glad I gave up on modern comics. Jim Lee isn't struggling. He's just doodling, wishing he was on the red carpet taking 12 vacations a year. He's an old man. He's been successful. I don't begrudge anyone their success in doing what they want to do in their golden years and stuff like that. But I do wish there's a little bit more focus in on the issues at DC Comics Perch, that Jim Lee was really out front talking to people, admitting them, and saying this is what we want to do to fix it.
You need a really good, if you're going to be a leader, I mean, the secret of great teams, and I was watching an interview with the late Steve Jobs recently talking about how you build a successful company, and the biggest thing you have to do is you have to hire extremely well under you.
Really good, smart people.
Yeah, yes. Get the next second crew that's going to be great, and that's DC has a massive gap. I mean, Jim Lee, we shouldn't be expecting him to be in the details of the finances and everything right now. We should expect him that he's bringing in legendary, crafters of that line.
Yeah. So I hope Jim Lee is doing well, and I know what he's done to the industry. I just wish DC was better now. Next up, HH from the Calico. Big news from Comics coming this fall. What do we think that is? Is that a new series? Are they going to adapt some more into manga? We got a new character coming? Anyone got the 411? What is this?
I don't have it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to talk to someone to see if they know. But I'm assuming New York Comic Con announcement. Maybe
that'd be cool.
An anonymous kind of, he's pimping his product as always.
Oh, I know what it is. I know what's going on. I just figured it out.
Ooh.
Yeah. Don't sit there. What are you? You got an NDA? Fucking Sparrow? What are you doing?
No, I was like, why would I ruin? Why would I ruin HH's?
It's his surprise to tell.
It's a surprise.
Okay, fine. Yeah. We'll respect his privacy.
I'm a keeper of secrets.
Caleb says, there's a sequel coming out next year for that Nubia real one.
There is, yeah.
Ooh, yay!
And that was Bree Javin's baby, right? Like the YA graphic novel line.
Yeah, fuck. What are you gonna do?
Well, you know what? I swear to God, DC Comics feels like somebody that has had a lot of repeated head trauma in the last few years, because they just keep making the same fucking mistakes over and over and over again.
It's Groundhog's Day.
It is, except for, unlike Bill Murray, they don't learn any fucking lessons.
No,
like just keep doing the same shit. I mean, how many years now have they just been? Hey, our entire recruiting process is let's get Marvel sloppy seconds. When has that worked yet? Please, I'm waiting for the first fucking time.
I hate that phrase too. A real one. Like I hate it so much.
I hate sloppy seconds, but
I thought you were going to say sloppy seconds.
You mean the phrase or just in as a concept?
But well, yeah. Yes, you always go first. Anyway, why? But it's kind of theme of the morning. I agree that there's Groundhog Day with a lot of stuff, but as a genuine question, and not as a shill to DC, why does DC get more of the critique in this area, not Marvel? Because I'm looking at
DC fans are easier to make mad than Marvel fans. I think Marvel fans accept a lot more bullshit.
Yeah, they eat a lot more of the flop.
That's a good answer.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I've noticed.
This would be a great, honestly, we could do a 2-hour panel on this question of why, because Marvel gets a lot of passes for stupid shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, looking over the solicitations, and somebody said earlier, I'm about to do the video of the solicitations that Marvel has coming up. And there is a point in every single time I do that where all of the life disappears inside of me.
You are right, because it's 88 books. It's so hard.
Yes.
Because I do it for the Patreon, and you're like, oh, God, I can't do this anymore. Another Steve Fox books? Like, there's no way. 3 books from Steve Fox? You got to be kidding me.
I know. I'm starting to like Cody Ziegler. I'm reading so much of him.
I am going to get, I'm going to drink a substantial amount of whiskey and then start one of those videos hammered and just see what happens if it's a different approach. But like second book in, they've got the Native American character from the season 2 of What If as a book, and Marvel's hyping it with multiple variant covers of the hottest new character you're ever going to see. And you're reading this going, what the fuck are you talking about?
Are you talking about the Werewolf by Night?
No.
This is
a different stupid book.
Just a random Native American character that was introduced in season 2 of What If, which nobody watched or talked about, and Marvel's treating it like this is the new Spider-Man.
Oh Jesus!
Perch, I do have
these people are retarded.
One more question, Perch.
Yeah.
Are you reading The Boy Wonder?
Yeah.
Why isn't that a DC YA graphic novel?
I don't know.
It's perfect.
Why did it take DC 4 years to do something more with Primer, the book that was the hottest seller on Amazon forever? Like, you just these things don't make a lot of sense. And the tough part is when you actually go talk. This is probably why I get most angry when people accuse me of being a shill, because I will go talk to DC and it drives me insane when I tell them, do you realize this book is selling so well on Amazon? And they do not realize it is. And,
no idea.
And you're literally talking to head editors or Marie Javins, and they're unaware of the success of the book they run. And it's like, why is a dumbass YouTuber explaining their sales? Like, this drives me insane.
Again, for the same reason why they hired Daniel Cherry. If anybody was actually good at their job at that company, they'd be working in a field that actually paid them.
Very nice. We got Dion West. I love your videos. And honestly, what screwed Batman hard was that Morrison created Damian as a self-insert. He really said in an interview with BuzzFeed in 2013 that he thought about his mom when he wrote Talia and himself when he wrote Damian.
That's cool.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that screwed Batman. I think Damian added a lot to Batman.
I fucking hate Damian.
Well,
I like Damian.
Right.
Well, Morrison self-inserts in all of his stuff. Like he was King Mob, and
so did Warren Ellis.
He was Dr. Quintum in All-Star Superman. He does that, and I can see that.
Wait a minute. When Morrison was doing this run with Talia, like he had her doing all kinds of sexy, screwed up shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Think about his mom.
About it.
Yep. Don't think about it too hard.
Don't think about it.
If you want a better interpretation of that relationship, I do suggest you go read The Boy Wonder #4, which fleshes out David's relationship with his mom in a very wholesome manner that I liked quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I like Damian, and I certainly like Damian with Dick Grayson as Batman and in Grant Morrison's Batman and Robin. But I don't like Damian with his dad because it doesn't work as well, in my opinion.
I thought Pete,
that's right.
Tomasi did a good job with it. Like, there's a lot you can do with Bruce when it's actually your blood son that you're dealing with. And Tomasi leaned into that. A lot of writers didn't. Scott Snyder didn't even touch it. Quote, because he didn't want to, because it reminded him of his own son, which I'm like, yeah, that's the point. But
so basically what we've learned here is Morrison wants to bang his mom.
Pretty much. Are we surprised?
What is it with Batman?
We also learned this week
Batman,
that Damian doesn't have feelings. He doesn't even dream because he has no actual feelings to manipulate. Isn't that weird?
That's what a lot of the DC Comics fans feel right now.
Yeah, that was such a weird take in Wonder Woman, wasn't it?
Well, if he can't dream, at least he's safe from Steve Fox's Marvel character.
That's not
Steve Orlando.
Oh, Steve Orlando. I'm sorry.
You can't get sleep.
Are they not interchangeable? Two talentless Steves, like just.
Yes.
No, one of those things is worse than the other.
Yeah, I don't think Orlando's a much worse writer. The Steve Fox X-Men 97 companion book isn't that bad. It's pretty average.
I should check that out.
Okay, so he wrote one decent thing the same way Steve Orlando wrote one decent thing.
I want to actually have this question lead to some momentum of, so all the people reading this, just start increasingly when you go to a convention and Morrison's up there and it's time for questions, ask him about his feelings of his mom. If Rich Johnson can push the Wolverine 2 dicks for the last 10 years, then certainly we can do this.
The Morrison Oedipus complex. Yeah.
That's right. Let's ruin comics more.
You know what I'm starting to learn?
More? Is it even possible?
More and more, like I'm starting, like Grant Morrison is very hit or miss for me. Either I really like what he does or I absolutely hate it. But more and more, even the stuff that I like that he did, too many writers are coming back and taking those ideas and ruining them, that I'm holding it against Grant Morrison himself when it's really Chip Zdarsky's fault. It's
Welcome
really
to the club.
His fault. And I blame
Jason Aaron.
now. Yes.
That's fair. Yeah. I think too many, we're in the era now. And you saw this in the 80s, people were complaining that people were coming into comics from the 70s and they missed the original, the 60s. And so
hotheads.
Yeah. And then, so they're, yeah. Okay. But you're getting all these eras. So we're living in an era now where the writers who are on the big two were inspired by Morrison. That was their year zero for a lot of these comics. And it's pretty shitty, but in fairness, 15 years from now, we're going to have the next generation
that are inspired by
Tom King and
or a generic Stephanie.
James
Tynion. One of the Stephanies, yeah.
Oh God. There we go. The Galco.
There's not going to be another generation of Big Two comics.
That's a fair point.
Oh, comics never die.
No, but the Big Two might.
Epic news coming from Sigma Comics also in Christmas of 2024.
It's a lot of news.
Oh, Calico X Santa Claus. All right. Kind of like
Santa Claus has been like beating dogs and cats.
Calico.
No, he's been beating the deer. He's been beating the reindeer.
Yeah.
He's been mistreating the reindeer, and Calico finally gets
Fellas, I got it.
It'll be like the Lobo paramilitary special or Christmas. And then,
I hope they don't do that to Santa Claus.
Or
Reindeer's Revenge.
Punisher beat the shit out of Santa one time.
Well, so did Stone Cold, but I didn't appreciate the Santa Claus himbo cover that we got this past week, Josh. Have you seen it where he's throwing his moose knuckle out there, got no shirt on, and he's like trying to look sexy?
What is this from?
Santa Claus, Batman Santa Claus, Silent Night Returns.
Oh, I missed that.
Wow, the cover is for you. It's not for me. So let's put it that way. That was weird. Gobbin says, I guess recommend DC Mech. A story about Superman never grew up on Earth means nothing to you, Wes. Also, I don't like when you made false info on Jason and X-23. Okay. Yeah, DC Mech Blue. I hate to break that to you. And so, you know what else sucked? The Marvel's fucking mech story that they made Jim Zub do for no reason. Those are all dumb.
I got a trip to Japan out of it.
You did?
Not me. He did. So
well, that's probably worth it.
Also, with Jason, Todd in X23. I don't know.
I'm assuming this is Jason Aaron.
Oh, what did Jason Aaron do with X23?
Doc, do not get started. You'll
Never mind. I don't know.
What false info did you put out?
I have no idea.
We need more context.
Yes.
Don't abuse your platform.
We're trying to reverse engineer this super chat, and it's being
We're not succeeding. Help us.
Yeah. Gal said, "Did you see those videos of T. Franklin being high 24/7 from Zach?" I don't cover T. Franklin on the channel anymore. I just feel bad at this point.
I feel like Zach's looking for his new
muse.
His new muse, you know.
Yeah.
Heather left, Mags left. Now he needs a new one, and that's his primary target right now. Yes, it's fucking hilarious.
In fairness,
I think
he gives a lot of material.
Yeah, and I think that he's particularly focused in on something that, you know, the comic book journalists will not cover, which is the fact that she has continued to lie about creating a character that was in Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
She has never created a character that was in Spider-Verse. She worked on a character that showed up in Spider-Verse, totally different from the way that she portrayed the character in the story that she wrote, but she in no way created Sun Spider. If she created Sun Spider, then, you know, if she can claim co-creator credit on Sun Spider years after Sun Spider was created, just because she gave a name and you know, to the character and you know, added some family members, then Joe Kelly is a co-creator of Deadpool, because everything that you like about Deadpool was basically added by Joe Kelly.
Kurt Swan,
including the reason that he has his name. Yeah, you know, Roy Thomas, co-creator of Wolverine. Oh, I'm sorry. Whoops.
Yes.
Aaron, she doesn't. Let's give her a break. She doesn't remember because she got high. Because she got high.
In fairness, the last time I got high, it felt like I was time traveling. So maybe she also feels that way because she's just high all the time.
I went back in time and I co-created Sun Spider. I gave the inspiration. It's like Mark Waid's you know, Irredeemable. You know, she went back in time and was the inspiration for the person who actually created the character. So therefore she gets co-creator
because she rolled in with her.
All right, fellas.
Wheelchair.
Simmer down. Cabot says, Perch, I want to talk about the inconsistency from Melissa Wong. I read in Iron Fist 50th anniversary. Pei gave up her powers but somehow still uses it. Melissa Wong needs to be called out. You talked to Mark Paniccia.
Yeah, but I mean, look, listen, a lot of these writers, I mean, they're just throwing shit at the wall. I don't think, and I mean, I don't know if we're getting into the Phoenix editor stuff, but like,
that's a funny thing, man. Dude,
so many of this stuff. I mean, you could call them out, but like over and over and over, you just get writers like, you know, does this conflict with what happened? You know, it used to be 20 years before. And do you remember the time as comic fans, for a lot of you out there, where, you know, it was the no price stuff where it's like, oh, you just said something in a comic that conflicted with a one shot roughly 14 years ago in this one instance. And you could kind of catch people in these little inconsistencies. And now it's like the thing that you did 3 months ago is different from the thing today.
And they're like, we don't fucking care.
Yeah. It's like, who? You know, so that issue was a shit show.
It did suck, didn't it? Even the Claremont story sucked.
It was bad. It was the who has the power now? Nobody seems to know at Marvel, certainly. And then, you know, the cherry on top was that stupid final page, the kind of the most important page in the whole comic on a QR code. And it's like, fuck off, Marvel.
Even though we were only going to be getting that in X-Men books.
Well, clearly they lied.
Yeah.
No. Just like Iron Man became an X-Men book, now they're going to claim Iron Fist is an X-Men book.
Yeah,
it already got canceled with Alyssa Wong on it, so I guess that makes sense.
That makes it an X-Men book.
Wong is.
I used to work with Paniccia at Tokyo Pop. He's a really good guy.
He is.
Loved him, and his late wife Jackie was just an absolute angel.
Friendly.
Yeah. I feel bad for anyone that bought that Iron Fist 50th anniversary.
Yeah,
you get one page of Heroes for Hire.
I agreed. I didn't. It was not good, and also, and this is where probably I do have some sympathy to, you know, the other YouTuber we were talking about earlier of just at some point you can't be surprised by this stupid shit anymore, and you know, it's hard to get emotion up about this stuff. It's just hard.
No doubt. He also says, can comics based on video games get people into local shops like Cuphead, Cult of the Lamb, Cyberpunk 2077, and Sonic the Hedgehog? video games that are recognizable. You know, you got Sonic the Hedgehog, and it's popular for IDW or wait, no, that's not IDW, is it? Or is it Boom? Whatever what publisher's doing,
IDW.
It's IDW, but whatever publisher's doing, it's good for them. But it doesn't get people into shops, as far as I can tell.
Batman Fortnite did, but it was because each issue had a code or a skin.
It has, but the comic book media actually went out of its way. This is 20 years ago. Warhammer. Wildstorm did a Warhammer book, and it sold over 1 million copies. The entire comic book press buried it. It wasn't listed as the top selling book. It wasn't listed even on any of their lists. They intentionally fucking buried it because it wasn't a superhero comic 20 years ago. You think they're going to do anything like that now? Yeah, they do it in a heartbeat. So
Perch,
yes,
you want to start up a publisher, right? Are you thinking about video game licenses?
Yeah.
Do you think they can get video game comic books and get people in shops?
If they're sold in the right place, yeah. If you're selling the direct market, you got a tougher run. If you go sell it in GameStop, you're going to have a much easier run.
Yeah. So it's probably harder to get them into local comic book shops. Probably has to be some type of synergy with the game. Certainly the Fortnite thing worked. Probably would have been more successful if it was in GameStop.
You put it in the electronics and the video game department of every big box store. You put it in a Best Buy, fucking Target, Walmart, right next to the video games that it's attached to. Mm-hmm. You will create comic book readers.
At the end of the day, it's a secret for everything. You got to go where your audience is. So you have to identify and so figure, like, next time people are talking about how it's not for you or going for new readers, you ever heard that argument? It's 2024 and apparently it's never going to die. Like Bruce Wayne should help poor people. You go where your audience is. So if you want new readers, you got to go to where new readers are. New readers are not going into a comic shop. That's your existing readers. So if you want to get a new readership, you got to go where they are. Where are they? They're
not the comic shop.
Schools, like many different places, but that's where you got to go. If you want a horror audience, you got to go where people buy and consume horror. If you want video game audience, you got to go where that is currently done. You have to go where your audience is. So this whole we're going for a new audience, but we're going to the same place as the same audience we've had for the last 30 years is stupid.
Well, when your marketing department is like, we're going for a new audience, and we went ahead and we sent our press release out to Bleeding Cool and to The Beat, and our work here is done.
Yeah, then
it's like you're not reaching anybody. You're not even reaching existing readers. Sending out to those two.
Correct. Yeah.
Everett Todd wants to know, why don't more shops have a POS system? I imagine because you have to pay like a monthly license fee, right? For a lot of those.
You do. Yeah. There's a monthly fee. I mean, arguably shops do have a POS system. A lot of the comics they get.
Mm-hmm.
There
we go.
And you honestly have to change how you're inventorying to fit the POS system. And it is going to be a lot of work if you go to something new.
Well, it's expensive. It turns out, believe it or not, fellas, the comic shop is not a high margin business. And so if you're now going to pay $350 a month, for example, for some software, that's going to hurt.
That's a part-time employee.
Yeah.
And I mean, now, thankfully, some of like the Square stuff is getting a little bit more reasonable and a little more customizable that can be used for stuff like this, but it's still a pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm. Federico de la Casa. Hi, guys. Perhaps we sanctify our memory, but for at least old events were something that meant a few years and launched heroes that were well crafted. Yeah, I mean, certainly. I mean, Crisis on Infinite Earths, the first really big event, was enormously impactful and changed things for a decade. What do you think, Josh? What was the last big event that actually meant something, that actually changed the DC universe?
That changed the DC universe. I mean, I feel like there's got to be a couple. When I think of, because you mentioned the character part of it, I always think back to No Man's Land and the introduction of Cassandra Cain. Like, I feel like that stuck pretty well for me. I'm trying to think of Any events that happened during
Infinite Crisis, maybe?
Yeah. With Superboy Prime and breaking up the universe again.
Yeah.
I remember that was the last time I was excited.
To Civil War.
Yeah, the biggest run where you had a good run like this was Civil War. Well, actually, House of M to Civil War to Secret Invasion. Yeah. And with Dark Reign there in the middle, you generated a lot of comics, a lot of money, and a lot of new IP. You did it with Bendis and Miller, so you had a couple different writers in the mix.
And Brubaker and
Brubaker. That's right. You had that run of Marvel is probably the best solid run for several years, where you had big events that were spawning off new titles that were making a lot of money. That was a good time at Marvel. And next time, and I'm certainly one of them, you think, why the hell is anybody giving Bendis the time of day? That moment is why.
Yeah.
He made a lot of money.
He made a career.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't stick the landing on any of those big crossovers.
Well,
because none of them were an ending.
Landing was the next event.
Right. That was where it was rolling. It didn't have to have an ending. It specifically was teeing up, but he was successfully teeing up the next thing. But if you notice, by the way, all of those things, House of M into multiversal bullshit, but it was easy to unpack that. Civil War, at no point was New York floating into space. Secret Invasion, you did have an invasion, but it was still fairly localized, which, by the way, was kind of a stupid thing. Why the Skrulls are like, we're just going to go to New York. It's like, okay,
that's the only state that matters.
That's what will take everything. But it worked in how they pulled all this stuff out. Even the giant void century nonsense in the
in Siege.
In Siege, was nobody gives a shit about Oklahoma, so you could blow that state up. So it worked.
God's country. Yeah. The Retro Bad, Vita Ayala and the whole team at the time destroyed Nubia's potential, as well as making the Amazons perfect in every way. They suck.
Was that the one that had the tranny one?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
But I thought that was Stephanie Williams, right?
That was Stephanie Williams, yeah, I thought.
Okay.
Or they're working together as a duo.
I think they were writing
something
together.
like that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up that team though, because it's almost Monday, which means it's going to be time to give to Danny Lore's Ko-Fi again.
That's
because
right.
bills are coming up again, like they do every 2 weeks.
Yeah,
that wasn't a good event. Yeah. Nubia and the Amazons, pretty rough read.
Well, it is. That was a bad comic for sure. In fairness to DC, it's not like the Amazons and Nubia were amazing hot sellers before this event either. So it's not like they ruined something.
Making Nubia less popular is still an achievement.
It is. Yeah, that's true. It is an achievement to go from nobody cares to people actively
dislike.
Yeah,
they actively hate.
You go nobody cares to active dislike to Clunrad.
Yeah.
I
didn't know this character existed, and now I'm mad.
Kalichioki, remember who was under which company as well? Marvel was under Disney, Iger's Hollywood Golden Child, DC is under Warner Brothers Zaslav's Hollywood Orange Man.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We'll see how things go.
But the other problem for DC that I don't think, we touched on it, but I think it bears repeating, is that I think another reason that DC gets more scrutiny is because Marvel does a bunch of really stupid stuff, and then 2 years later, that doesn't work, and then 2 years later, DC goes, "Hey, let's do that stuff that Marvel tried that didn't work."
Yeah, and you're pissed off again. You're reminded why it didn't work the first time.
Yeah, but you're also going like, "It didn't work the first time. Why do you guys think you can pull it off?"
Yes, that's where I go with the sloppy seconds and head trauma, because I'm like, we already saw this fail once. Are you people that fucking retarded? And so apparently the answer is yes.
Titty Howard, let's put her on Harley Quinn and Catwoman. What could go wrong?
Because that worked out so well.
I think there is something to this comment though. The leadership, the politics of leadership probably does impact some of the journalism such as it is.
That is a very good point. Mr. DC Comics, I would like to see the battles and fights in DC emphasized more in the storytelling. If it works for Rocky and John Wick movies, why not the comic books?
Well, you have to, as a writer, you have to actually then describe that. And you can't just put, hey, Brett Booth, do 2 pages of people punching each other. It will be fine. And then
the
go
fight
get a
can't speak for itself.
Yeah.
When I was doing
There's so many weird things happening off panel now, though, Perch. It's starting to make me mad. Even in a book I don't like, it'll happen, and it still makes me mad.
So I think the fight scene that goes on in Absolute Batman is a pretty good one for storytelling. Let's see what you think when it comes out.
No, yeah,
when I was doing Miss Meow with Murphy, we did a fight between some characters that took place over 3 issues. So we got to really like get in there and do some pretty brutal stuff. I mean, it can be done.
It can, for sure. It's not. It just takes a little bit more work, but vicious cycle, right? If Jed McKay is a good, for example, storyteller, and then you put him on 5 books, he's going to be describing the fights a lot less and going to be leaning on the artist more. And frankly, a lot of the artists would want that. They also want to do their own thing. So I mean, it's you have a number of problems to fix here.
And look at someone like Toriyama too. If you look back at Dragon Ball Z, how long did that first Frieza Goku fight last? If it lasted forever in the cartoon, but it was a long time in the book. I mean, that went on, and those were pages and panels and panels and pages and fight scenes, and just it still gets me going. I love that stuff.
You're so right. I mean, and if there's money to be made, I mean, just look at One Piece. You could have a scene of somebody going to get lunch last 40 issues. Go for it.
Absolutely. Baja Cat. We'll never get good old school story writing in comics again if they bring in talented writers. The Whisper Network activists go away. They won't let anyone threaten their position of power.
Look,
imagine having power over the comic book industry. Imagine that being, what a petty small thing.
But that's it. That's it. Exactly. This is like the man behind the curtain type stuff, except there's not really a curtain. It's like a drape on a table. This is, and all of us should recognize that, especially those of us who are out making videos complaining about this stuff. I count myself included, but all the people, like, this is a joke. The Whisper Network is a joke. Yes, it impacts the comics we love for sure, but we are talking about a handful of morons who can't afford food and have to beg on Ko-fi for cat litter. Like that's the arch enemy there. And it's okay to dislike it, but my God, it is pathetic.
Who's the first person that goes to them and be like, listen, I'll get you a year's supply of cat litter. You just stay out of my way.
It might work. Look, I mean, for all we know, and I'm not making up any rumors, but, maybe that's how Donny Cates had his meteoric rise. He just you supply a little bit of kitty litter and heroin and it works.
That would require anyone coming into the comic industry to have money that they're not begging for too.
Yeah, but they
didn't make any money.
Okay, Stephanie Williams, right? Is it Stephanie Williams, Stephanie Phillips? Who has the rich dad?
Phillips.
Okay, so this is what Phillips should do. So Phillips, if you're listening right now, and I know you're not, but if you are, you never know. To get some of that money, this is your plan. Go and buy cat food, right, in bulk. You're going to go Costco, and you're going to need to rent a truck. Then you're going to supply it to all these people in return for them giving you every comic. And I'm not just talking like 4. I'm talking the entire line is going to be written by Stephanie Phillips, right? You can do this. So in six months of effort and very little amount of money, and maybe you send them on vacation, but you don't need to send them someplace nice. You can send them like Salt Lake City. You can do something like that. You could take over the entire comic industry, Stephanie Phillips.
But here's the problem. Stephanie
Take me with you. I will pretend to like you.
Stephanie Phillips already has the approval of these people.
No,
she doesn't have to buy them all like that.
She has step 1. I'm saying dream bigger.
Oh, okay.
All of it.
Why are we trashing Salt Lake City? That's one of the nicest cities in America.
I don't know. It's the first thing that
you send them to Milwaukee. You send them to Chicago.
Detroit.
I drove through Salt Lake once. It looks like the apocalypse.
They're getting a hockey team. Leave them alone.
You can't get coffee there. It's terrible.
My goodness. Jose the Beast. DC should do a Mortal Kombat comic before MK2 film release next year. I could see Jeremy Adams doing it since he screen wrote the animation. Thoughts?
I'd be down with Jeremy Adams doing an MK comic book. I liked the one that Sean Kittleston did a few years ago, and by all accounts, it was very successful. And then they decanonized it, when they did the game. But the Mortal Kombat game is in a really bad space right now. It's not posting numbers. People are not enjoying it. So yeah, I don't know. And that film sucked. I mean, it had some cool moments in it, but replacing any character you care about with what was his name, Cole something, the guy who's the guy whose power was a really nice armor
plot
sweater.
armor.
Yeah, he grew literal plot armor. and then they had him defeat Goro. Like that movie was like, oh, screw off.
Whole handsome guy.
Except
There's got to be
handsome guy,
more
not that
Kombat
handsome
comic
and can't act. It's the guy that plays Shatterstar in Deadpool. He's awful.
Yeah.
Henry,
Cold, cheap
Henry
to
Tam,
afford.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would be down for that. And certainly Jeremy Adams needs more work writing comic books. I don't understand why he's not doing more, but it's weird. Hopefully he's getting lots of screenwriting credits or something.
I hope so.
So we do have another topic. What am I doing here? We've got this insane editor from Marvel. This is what it was, Doc. I have, for the longest time, asserted that Sarah Brunstad is the worst editor at Marvel, and you said it's Analise Bisse.
I still believe it is. Yes.
Well, now I agree with you because we got this. I'll put it up full page. Let's do the thing. Let's read it all together. I don't normally read on the live streams, so we could do this bad boy. Where is this thing? Here it is. Sometimes it feels like I learned everything from the X-Men. At age 8, I wandered up to my father and asked him what communism was. Thanks, Colossus. But I started reading well before Peter Rasputin burst onto the scene from the Ost-Oderuski collective farm. I started at the beginning when Jean Grey walked into X-Men #1, shaking the foundation of Xavier's school. Of course, I related to her. She was the girl, and they simply couldn't stop talking about it, so there was no ignoring it, Jean. She's the girl. She threw the school into disarray because of how in love with her almost everyone was, like the social political organization of the Soviet Union. This dynamic was another complicated concept X-Men brought into my early life. Over time, Jean Grey evolved into the character who millions of Marvel fans have loved across comics, movies, television, video games, and more. A graceful, dedicated, whatever. Where is she more insane? This was the most insane talking point thing I think anyone's ever seen in their life, Perch. And I acquiesce. Doc was right. Analise Bisse, worst editor in comic books.
Well, I still think there's plenty of terrible editors, so hold the phone there. But this was insane. But it really, and you kind of did yourself as you're reading through it, because you can't make it through this. It was, you can dissect it for how insane it is. I do love how sentence number 2, we go into communism. I mean, in a Phoenix book, why?
Because she's a commie and everything's political.
But why? It's weird.
Because she's a commie and everything's political.
Yeah.
That is the answer.
She's weird.
It's weird for all of us normal people.
This is so strange. So this was printed in the back of Phoenix #2.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for whatever reason, this is not the kind of content they put at a QR code. Like why?
We need this one to get lost to the internet fucking void when the link goes dead.
I talked about this with a few people, and people are like, you're picking on it. Don't be one of those YouTubers who just picks on everything. But I'm like, okay, you're probably right. It's just some person being paid $30,000 a year rattling off something. Fine, but when you read it again, you're like, oh, this is insane. This actually is truly insane. I love all the little bits like first of all, this has to be written by AI, right? I mean, it has to be. This sentence, of course, I related to her. She was the girl, and they simply couldn't stop talking about it, so there was no ignoring it. Jean, she's the girl.
This person graduated college?
What is going on?
Yeah, well, she had to drop in the almost there because
Bobby. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Goes back to the first issue. Come on, guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I hate this whole thing. She threw the school into disarray because of how in love with her almost everyone was. Yeah, they're talking about Bobby, but fuck, don't do a whole screed in a page about how you've read all the X-Men issues and you've read every single thing ever. Which, by the way, if we want to dissect that, she says at age 8, she wandered up to the father asking what communism was. This appeared in Giant Size X-Men #1. She claims she started at the beginning in X-Men #1 in the 60s. So does this mean she was reading the X-Men comics at 6? Is that what?
No, I feel like this is her saying she discovered.
She discovered communism at age 8 and then went back in time to.
Yes.
But again,
so that she could start at X-Men 1 before she read any of the ones with Colossus post Giant Size #1.
But But goddamn, I mean, it just this makes it's just so it's lunacy, and this is the editor. And if you read the issue, and God help you if you do, but if you read the issue, the current basic structure is Phoenix is out in space for whatever ass reason, discovering herself, saving aliens. And they regularly in this book talk about she's a god, basically. She can do anything. She's flying around in a spaceship, but she can break planets in half and other. But then simultaneously, her human side is tired. And they go through this whole bit where she gets on the ship and she's like, man, I've never wanted Cyclops' shitty coffee more than this morning. I'm so fucking beat. And that's the image that you see on that page from before. But you just explained how she was omnipotent, and now you're explaining that she wants coffee, and you're having her shit on her boyfriend, husband, whatever Cyclops is these days. Corsair shows up and is written completely different from 2 years ago. It just the entire, and then this editor comes in the last page to explain how she is such a huge X-Men fan. She's read every single issue ever, but clearly can't edit the book any kinds. Because I realize I'm the only one who's really triggered by all this, but
no, I am too. I mean, does it depress you to realize that this person is an editor over an X-Men book, and yet in their own column they can't put together a cohesive narrative timeline of events?
Absolutely. And yes, we're picking at a thread. So certainly can say, as somebody said in the chat, you're right. Jean is a mortal vessel for an immortal being. Yes, but the writing is showing her being like super awesome, powerful. And they describe the Black Order later in the comic of, well, these are people who kiss Thanos' purple wrinkly ass, but really kind of suck and are a bunch of losers. And then promptly show up on the planet as gods. And then there's Asgardian zombies for some reason. And it's like, what the fuck is going on in this comic? And then this page is at the end. It's just so goddamn awful.
Look, I'm not, after reading that editor's letter to herself, because that is ostensibly what's supposed to be the letters page, by the way. So apparently there were 0 letters after issue 1 to go into issue 2. That's how much nobody read the fucking book. She had to write a letter to herself. I am not convinced she has ever read a single X-Men comic, including the one she's supposed to be editing.
There's no way she read that book. And this had to be ChatGPT that wrote this, and then they put a couple things in. It's the only thing that makes sense. But this bothers me because the editor, we crap on writers a lot on our various channels and other things, and rightly so. They're the creators of the story, but the editor is the gatekeeper that is supposed to keep the truly nonsensical insanity from going out into the world.
Yeah.
And so when you see stuff like this, it does make you angry that this is happening. And then in general with the X line, and by the way, a little bit of, I told you so, but I think Jeff Thorne's X-Force book is killing it. Like I said earlier, it's well, I'm not killing it, but it is good.
I read one issue. It was good.
Yeah. We'll see how it keeps up, but hoping so. I know, several of the people on the channel have harassed me about my opinions on Thorne in the past, but I like that comic.
Just Green Lantern.
Yeah. The rest of the line though, Jesus. This is a horrible, horrible reboot launch.
Well, I mean, that's because nobody wanted to do the job.
And you put a guy in charge who doesn't care and didn't want to do it.
And then a bunch of people under him that have never done the job competently either, because they've been there. Analise Bisse and the other broad, and there's a couple of dudes in there. They've been there under Jordan White.
Huh? It's Mark Bozzo.
Yeah, but I think a lot of them though were there under the last regime too, and they were just as incompetent then, if not more so. Now they have a guy that just doesn't give a fuck as their boss. The last guy was just the biggest pushover on the planet. This is a guy that I'd be surprised if he even answers his email about the books. And nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody cares what they're doing. They're just making shit up as they go along. Yes, it is the editors. I mean, because look, we've heard the ideas that Chris Claremont had that never got used. a lot of them were really bad.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
Where he wanted to go with certain things, he needed an editor to rein him in. That was the same thing with, if we want to go to wrestling, Vince fucking Russo with Vince McMahon.
I knew you were going to go here. I was already thinking about it.
Vince reined Vince in. Absolutely. Otherwise, you get fucking WCW in 1999. You can have you can have crazy ideas, but you need somebody to rein them in. The problem is the people whose job it is to rein them in either don't give a fuck or is just as crazy, if not more retarded than the people that are hiring it that they're supposed to rein in.
Editorial is important, and this is why even on a creator-owned project like I'm doing, I have Josh read it, I have Max read it, I have Drew read it. I send it out to people to give me notes on it, to let me know how it reads, to let me know how it thinks. Because when you're working on something, it's different than when you're a writer and when you're a creator on something than when you're an editor. Because an editor can actually have that step back to look at the whole picture and pick things out. When you're creating and you're writing, you're right up in it. And you can miss little details because you get, you're so close to the material. So you do need an objective voice to come in and say, like, I don't really think this works. And, no, you can't do this because this ruins this, especially when you're running a line of comics.
Well, it's tough. And granted, it's just a drop in the ocean. So, we're making probably a bigger deal of this than it is, but it is a good indication of a lot of stuff. One, the editor does not understand the comic they're reading. To stop with the poking about Bobby was gay all along. If you actually read the comic, he clearly wasn't. That one panel of him saying, "Ooh, girl's icky" at the age of 10 does not indicate that you're gay. There, the follow-up sequences where he's trying to look at her panties is a pretty good indication that it's fine.
And then 30 or more years of him being an absolute poonhound in the comic books.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then, but now he's gay, so fine. That was Marvel's choice. But you don't retroactively say back in the 60s is what meant all along. To stop gaslighting everybody. It's fine. It's fine that you change. You made a decision. You own the character. Do what you want, but you can't change the past, regardless. It's just stupid. This is dumb, and it's a dumb comic. So,
also, yeah, you read Phoenix #2?
Yes.
It's flabbergasting. Even if you buy into the story that they're telling with Jean and what she's doing and meeting up with, the Starjaber and all that stuff, all the narration is from a character that isn't there and has no perspective on what you're actually seeing. It makes no sense. Like the editor doesn't understand that the narration needs to provide context or kind of expand upon the ideas that you're seeing in the story.
Yeah, the whole book reads like, it's like, hey, would you like to do this comics? Probably only gonna last for about 6 issues or so, but let's give it a shot. What if we did space Asgardian zombies? Yeah, that sounds like fun. I'll have a double whip frappuccino, please. That's how this reads.
Yeah, anything Stephanie Phillips writes in the background, I'm just always hearing, you're a rich girl and you've gone too far, but it don't matter anyway.
I'm just hearing
you can rely on the old man's money. That's exactly what it is.
I just hear somebody ordering Starbucks.
Pumpkin spice. Is pumpkin spice in yet?
Spice will be back any minute now. Don't worry.
But just the entire launch has been bad. What did you think was worse, Perch? Was it NYX or was it X-Factor?
Oh, Jesus.
It's NYX for me.
What's worse, a hangnail or athlete's foot?
X-Factor had slightly better art, so probably that one's better.
X-Factor did have better art, yeah.
You cannot read the words, and at least the pretty pictures are kind of fun.
Yeah, NYX is rough. Like, what if they were ever going to get Kamala Khan over as Miss Marvel? Like, what's the plan? Because they keep doing this thing where they just add new stuff onto her, and no one really cares.
Pony up the money won't make very much. Just give back to G. Willow Wilson. Say, we're not going to mess with you for 2 years. Do your own thing. Try and make this character enjoyable again. Go. That's the success of that character. Easy.
Or put a male writer on it who will actually challenge her and actually, dig into the character and maybe might actually be critical about some of the things about Islam. You should have some villains for her that have like a very different idea about what she should be doing as a good Muslim girl. You know, you could get into that. You should be able to explore those things. But with Miss Marvel, you can't, because that's something that, like, oh no, we can't touch that. So she just has to be perfect and representative all the time. And with these characters that are seen as representation as opposed to characters, you are literally not allowed to do anything interesting with them because you can't challenge them.
I think I would do something really much dumber, to be honest. I mean, just you want to integrate her into the Marvel universe and all the rest. So, you know, she's walking home from school, whatever. The Serpent Society, this stupid group, kidnaps her, locks her up somewhere. You have to spend 6 to 12 issues of her escaping and trying to take this stuff down. And it's all about just her trying to outwit these characters that are Marvel Universe villains that are not the biggest villains, but, you know, fuck it, they allow her to play with them a little bit, whatever. And
Perch, I will not hear any blasphemy against the Serpent Society.
You're not. You don't. My point is, you don't put her up against Ultron and have her defeat Ultron. You know, if she can outwit ultimately the Serpent Society, you know, you take several issues to do it, make it clever. Then that's something to get a character over. You can make it work. But, you know, instead, it's like, I know we need to make her popular. Let's have her to be the most powerful. Somebody's going to come back from the past and say they're the most powerful mutant of all time. And one day you're going to defeat Galactus and save the entire multiverse. Now everyone should love you. And that's the comic.
Yeah.
Maybe if Miles Morales had a sword, people would like it. Maybe if Miles Morales was a vampire,
some vibranium armor.
Yeah.
I will say, having Kamala on the X-Men or on an X-Men team probably isn't a bad idea if you took the Kitty Pryde approach, that she's the young one, she's there to learn, she's trying to learn, and you get to see her grow. But they're not. She's the star of the show. So, you know, it's like,
she's already too old.
The ball.
She's a freshman in college now. She's already too old. I mean, Kitty worked because she was 13 years old. A whole
Yoda.
You could play Kamala as being very sheltered and, you know, and like being, you know, I mean, look at how many kids are in college today that like don't know anything. You know, they basically are less, you know, they have the mentality of a 13-year-old from back in the 80s, because when we were 13, we were already 30. You know, so, you know, you just have to play with the, you know, the character in such a way that makes sense. So, you know, yeah, she grew up with a very sheltered, very protective family, and now she's out in the world, and you can play around with that. You can make that interesting, but you have to have a writer with some life experience. You have to have a writer who's willing to take chances, and you have to have an editorial team that is willing to back those chances up.
Yeah.
Well, but it's going to be chick fiction, which is the opposite of the hero's journey. It's the world's journey to recognize the greatness of the hero. The hero doesn't change. The protagonist.
Well, that's why you need a male. That's why you need a male writer on Kamala. And when I say 100%. A male writer, I mean one with actual testosterone, not the ones they get to write her.
Plus Josh.
Josh.
Hey, by the way, did any of you see? And you probably already did a video on this, but I'll throw it out there. Hey, welcome back, Josh.
Thanks.
The Daniel Kibblesmith New Warriors. That, you know, it leaked. Did you guys all see it?
Yeah.
I've not seen it. No one send me a copy. I would have read it.
Oh, I can get it to you. So I will make this statement. You know, we all made fun of that comic from the solicitations and the marketing. It wasn't a good comic by any stretch of the imagination. It's way better than Mark Russell's work.
Oh, yeah. God, yeah. Oh, absolutely it is.
Not hard. Oh, yeah. Mark Russell is
a really low fucking
terrible.
Ball.
I understand, but that's a crazy. Russell continues to get these comics because somewhere along the line, people are like, "Oh, I love his hot takes of the Flintstones in modern life."
Snagglepuss really did it for me.
Yeah, and
Bonnie, we participated in a genocide.
Jesus. But that book, somehow, it's kind of like the Marvel DC thing. Some of these people, they skate by with absolute shit. That Kibblesmith New Warriors book was significantly better, and I would say also significantly better than anything Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly have done in the last 2 years.
The interesting thing about Mark Russell to me is that
2 years
people
make it 10.
People continue to refer to Mark Russell as like the funny writer. Like he writes funny things despite all evidence to the contrary. It's like when people refer to Joy Behar as a comedian. It's like, where is the evidence of this?
Yeah.
Have you noticed, Perch, that they've already announced like 15 X-Men books because they're just waiting? They're like, they've already prepared new books to replace the ongoings that are going to be like canceled so early.
That was very clear.
Absolutely. I don't know. I just, it is, somebody's shitting on me now for saying that's not a hot take, but yeah, Mark Russell bad is not a hot take. I get it. But I started to wonder a lot more lately, like, why is it that some things get endless shit and then others don't, right? So and granted, Kibblesmith's a safe space and Snowflake and these dumbass characters from years ago. It was stupid, and it deserved to be made fun of.
Magic backpack.
Yeah, it was dumb. But then we get then others. There's just not the attention. It's fascinating to me a little bit because there's absolutely dumber, more horrible stuff out there that seems to go by. But anyway.
I did a video on Poison Ivy and Harley from T. Franklin. I did 2 of them. Yeah, that was awful.
Here's the thing, though. Mark Russell, for whatever reason, he's been accepted because he actually got shit printed before he became a laughingstock. He was a nobody that Dan Didio decided was his little fucking pet project, and he actually got a bunch of work done. So he had established himself. No, he had established himself as being fucking terrible. But he didn't make the company. Kibblesmith made the company a laughingstock, like to the general public.
No, I get it. But X-Factor is awful and should also be mocked and make the company a laughingstock.
Oh yes, but until Joe Rogan's making fun of it too.
Yeah,
people still cared back when the New Warriors got announced. There was still a little bit of investment in Marvel, and that's just gone now. So you can come out with Mark Russell X-Factor. Nobody looked at that and ever expected it to be good. As soon as it was announced, people were like, "Oh, this is going to be hot garbage," and it was. And so it was like, well, I mean, water is wet.
You met my
Doc and I skipped it, but we had done so many X-Men reviews in a row, and we'd already done NYX. It was like.
And it's just such a played out concept. Like they're a reality show, based superhero team.
I watched
Rob Liefeld was doing that shit with Youngblood in the 90s.
And I read the Ecstatics too, where you kill the entire team in the first issue.
All right, so to this, we've seen most of them now. We haven't seen the exceptional X-Men. So there's still a dark horse of worst comic ever in this new lineup coming. But what's the worst one in your opinion so far?
NYX.
Yeah,
NYX. It is a toss up between NYX and X-Factor, and you could also throw Phoenix in just because of the amount of plagiarism involved.
Yeah.
So I mean, hot take, but X-Men #2 is the worst issue out of any of the X-Men books so far.
That's a good one. I mean, that's fair.
That Phoenix #2 is pretty bad.
Well, we'll flip the question too. What's the best? What have you liked so far from the Ashes?
It's just so the only comic I've been really impressed with is X-Force #1.
Yeah, me too.
And it's still one issue, so that it's still there's a lot of ways for that to go bad. But it like what I liked about that is something I haven't seen in a Marvel book in a while, which is the premise is simple. We got a magic ball thing, and it shows where problems are. Go solve problems like that. It works.
In fairness, Perch, and I know that Jeff Thorne you're friendly with.
I haven't talked to him in a while though.
But regardless, there's a lot of ways it can go bad because it's Jeff Thorne, and he's yet to write something that was good.
Yeah, I mean, so we disagree there, but that's fine. I've liked some of his stuff. What I like about him, and maybe it plays well here, is he does care a lot about the continuity, and he tries to dip into it. Now, sometimes the continuity people don't like, which I think is definitely what happened with Green Lantern, among other things. But regardless, I think you got other things to talk about. Simple premises help. Simple concept.
I thought Uncanny was fine. It was just disjointed. It needed something to connect the story because it was just kind of all over the place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was the problem with Uncanny is while it was a perfectly acceptable, mediocre comic, it was an issue 4, not an issue 1. There was no call to action whatsoever.
Oh, I would have said it's an issue 7. Like get your first arc and take a breather. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Issue 7. It's somewhere down the line where it's a throwaway issue. And they did it for issue 1, which means
let's hear.
The decline is probably coming.
Here from the people's Federico de la Casa. Do you think that old pros could be editors in the big 2 to teach how to do it to the new ones? Do you think some new writers love comics because some seem not? Certainly, that's the way it used to be, Aaron. That eventually you would graduate up to being the group editor if you were a successful writer.
Yeah, but that was the day before. That was in the days before the people coming in had no humility and were all a bunch of narcissists that think that the world revolves around them. This would be like trying to get, say a CM Punk into the AEW locker room and teaching the young guys. They already know everything. They don't need to listen to Steven Regal. They don't need to listen to CM Punk. They don't need to listen to these guys that have been around for a while. They know everything. They were on the indie circuit.
Oh my goodness, You're still on the CM Punk bullshit.
No, that's good. That's a good analogy. CM Punk's also a dick, but sure. But your point is taken. But the problem with this is kind of exactly what you said. You also have a lot of new creators right now who don't really love the source material, and they're doing this because they want to do their own indie book, or they want to go to Netflix, or what have you. Or, I mean, so the part of being an editor means you really need to know the history and actually like it, and want to preserve it and build on it. And I think, Aaron, you mentioned earlier, the lore. If you love the lore because you think tapping into the lore gives you a step up in selling your comic or your book or your novel or whatever it is, and you can make more money, that's one way of thinking. The other way of thinking is like whatever the other Marvel editor who's saying the lore is racist and we need to get rid of the lore because the lore, disenfranchises new writers who aren't white men from the 50s. That's the dividing line we're on. So there's a lot of older writers who could be great editors, but they have to love the comics, and increasingly there's fewer of those people around.
Very, very true. Gobbin says Kamala being an X-Men is a bad idea, like Lin Lee as Iron Fist is a bad idea, and the new Venom, I think it is Victor Alvarez instead of Luke Cage.
Look, I don't fundamentally hate the idea of Kamala as an X-Man, but the thing that irritates the shit out of me is she's now becoming, and they're doing the same thing to her that they did to Carol, where she's a cipher. She's a blank slate character that they can just slap on whatever is popular to her, or they will just slap on something new, completely new backstory and everything, and they're just like, oh, yep, and this is how it is now. And they'll do it over and over. And whenever this doesn't work and X-Men stay unpopular because they're not going to reclaim their past glory with this current lineup, they'll make her a Spider character next. And then they'll make her a product of the fucking Weapons Plus program. And then they'll turn her into a Red Room. She came out of the Red. They'll just keep putting whatever.
They'll give her a symbiote into a Red Room. She'll actually become a Red Room. People will be inside of her. Wait a minute. Oh, never mind.
I think Kamala's X-Men is a bad idea because she's an Inhuman, and there's a fucking difference. It's already been established. I think you should work within the confines. Who does everyone think the new Venom's going to be? It's going to be Luke Cage, Robbie Robertson, Madam Mask, or Rick Jones.
My vote's for Peter Parker.
Fuck it. You know what?
For who cares?
Rick Jones was already a Hulk for a little while. Well, he was an abomination. Why not? Make him a Venom now. He's been a Lucky. He's been a Venom. He's been a Hulk. Sure. Fuck it. Why not?
Now most of the Marvel line is an abomination.
There's too many symbiotes. I'm tired of throwing symbiotes on everybody.
It'll be Luke Cage.
Well, the color scheme says Luke Cage, yes, because it's gold and black.
They also don't have anything going on with Luke Cage. It's like it's 3 years later, and they're like, oh yeah, he's a mayor now. Fuck it, let's do something else. And and so they'll do that. Iron Fist is dead, but coming back to life. So this will allow them to have the ghost of Danny Rand meets up with the Venom of Luke Cage, and both of them just jerk each other off for an event.
We wouldn't want to buy that one. Well, thank you very much to Common Sense. It's everybody for supporting the channel. But we are coming to the end of the road here. Time to talk about some comic book recommendations and all that good stuff. I do want to say thank you very much to Perch, a special guest this week, joining us. What should people be looking out for on the Comics by Perch YouTube channel?
More crap.
There's not one video specifically that people are going to like?
No,
an interview?
You're not gonna like any of them. No, they're just there. I mean, they're fine. I talk about whatever's on my mind, and the videos go on, and it's good. I have some interviews come up. Hopefully, we'll get Chris Claremont scheduled here soon. We've been going back and forth with him. That'll be a good one, maybe. Jim Shooter's coming on. If Scott would ever. I mean, probably being a toxic YouTuber is going to prevent Scott from ever doing it. But I hold out hope, like Jewel with her love songs one day. But you know, we'll keep doing stuff. It's fine. Every now and then, people like do reaction videos like, "Can you believe Perch said this?" Yes, I can believe it. He's drunk half the time. Of course, I can believe it.
You're not drunk when you record the videos. You record the videos when you drive to work.
Right.
Yes.
Oh no!
Not saying about anything about whether or not he's drunk.
Hey y'all, I live in Texas now. I can do what we want. We can do what we want.
He's got a set of steel balls on his Porsche.
Yeah.
Sure. My favorite thing is when you hear Perch doing
up.
his video in his car, and you can hear him, just punching it. You can hear him guzzling from his flask and shooting a gun out the window because he's
That's
in Texas.
true. Yeah, all those things happen, but it's fun. I like my channel is like if you go into a comic shop and you're chatting with somebody for a little while and then you leave. That's what my channel is, and I'm very happy for it to be that.
Now you called yourself a DC shill a little bit earlier. I will let this out of the bag. I think tomorrow people might be calling me a DC shill. I have a very positive DC video that I think people will be very interested in what I have to say. How's that?
That's good. Well, you can take the mantle for a while.
Sure, I'll be the
I've enjoyed for 5 years of this channel. I've enjoyed being the industry shill and the the woke apocalypse, anti-SJW, whatever. I love being all things to all people. It's so amazing.
Everybody loves you except for that bend over guy. I don't think he liked you.
Yeah.
Bend over? I don't know.
He was one that was razzing the comments, but that's fine. People don't have to love all the guests. What comic books would you recommend this week, though? You know, there were some bad ones out there.
Yeah, but you mentioned the Standstill was great. So Standstill #1 by Image. It was a nice surprise. It read it read like so. This is increasingly, I think, like you open up the comic, you feel like you actually read for several minutes a comic. It doesn't feel like you flew through in 2 seconds because there was no story to it. This one actually has some meat to it, not Arby's meat, but meat. So it's a good Wes. So that's a fun comic. Nightclub #2 is out. That's fun. Patra #1 is not bad from Dark Horse. That'd be interesting to kind of check out. That had an interesting take to it. There's a few things. If you want to just see something ridiculously stupid, you've got Florida Man versus Hogzilla. From American mythology, that is clearly dumb. Redcoat #5 is out. I'm enjoying that from Ghost Machine. That's a good comic. I was trying to find something from DC and Marvel here. I know that I enjoyed something out of Marvel. I didn't mind. Predator versus Black Panther was not bad. I don't love it, but I do think if you're going to put characters together like that, that in theory, my imagination says that could be a good comic. Now you don't get it, but still, in theory,
you don't get it. The art really holds it back too for some reason.
It does. The art's not there, but I mean, imagine if it was Predator versus like Thor, like that. That's not a fight. So in theory, you could do something really cool, but it doesn't happen. I don't know.
I had one Marvel book that I'll talk about my best of the week, but it barely made it.
Yeah, I mean DC. It's just fucking Jenny Sparks is sitting out there. I know some people like Gotham City Sirens because of tits, but okay. There you go.
Jenny Sparks, that's your recommendation?
No.
Oh.
I didn't say that at all.
Oh,
no.
I thought you were just throwing it there at the end. It's like the big recommendation is Jenny Sparks from Tom King.
No, I said Jenny Sparks. Sorry, but I just drifted off into like. I'm trying not to.
You just can't get over it.
I know I've done a couple things already, but it's fine. What does everybody else like?
Well, that's the big question. We do have Mr. Josh McDonald, the man behind Pop My Culture. I know you're expanding the lineup. Anything people should be looking out for?
Yeah. So coming up in September, we have quite a few shows debuting. So we've got graphic content that's going to debut. We have Cherry Popped that's going to debut. And then we've got the book club that we're going to start. So a lot of fun stuff going on there. As far as my picks for the week, I mean, I already said at the beginning, but Conan, if you're not reading Jim Zub's Conan, you need to go get on that train. It's excellent.
Buy all those books.
Yeah. I'm going to second Redcoat. Again, all of the Ghost Machine line's been pretty terrific. I'd say the weak point is Geiger, just because it's kind of retreading ground for this audience that may not have caught the beginning. And the third thing, and Wes is going to cringe when I say this, but the trade of Bear, Pirate, Viking, Queen came out. Highly recommend.
I'm going to cringe. I just that book did not do it for me, even though it has literally everything I like in the title.
Yeah, it did everything for me. So yeah, even bought original art from it. So
very nice. Congratulations on the acquisition of the original art.
Yeah.
Man, you said something interesting that I wanted to comment on, but I'm so old I've actually forgotten what it was. Must not have been that important. I do want to say thank you very much to Josh. Really appreciate it. Dill Lindsay, great show. Predator versus Kraven would be fun.
Ooh,
Predator versus Kraven would make more sense than Black Panther, though.
Yeah. What you do is you have the Predator hunting Black Panther, and then you have Kraven hunting the Predator.
So I didn't read. I didn't read this Predator Black Panther. But does Predator invade Wakanda? Because then it would make sense.
Well, you got to read the book, but yeah, you're getting there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
a little more to it.
Yeah.
Look, this is a classic. Just Black Panther's hanging out doing something. Predator has come down to have a true fight because he realizes the tech superiority of Wakanda should mean this is a good challenge for him. He neutralizes some of Black Panther's tech, and then you get a knockdown, drag out fight between the two of them. You put a good writer and artist on that'd be a pretty damn good book. That isn't what you get here, but in theory,
no.
Yeah. But does the Predator want autism?
I was like, Perch is explaining a much better Predator versus Black Panther book than the one I read. It's like, did I miss it? Like, okay.
Yeah. They should allow Perch to pitch.
Nobody wants to be writing a comic.
No, that story really should have written itself, but it's not terrible, but it's not good either, unfortunately. So definitely be supporting Josh. We've also got Aaron Sparrow here. Are you making any rounds this week? Making any drop-ins?
I do have some recommendations this week. First of all, G.I. Joe: Real American Hero comes out this week. Mark Millar's Nightclub 2 has an issue out this week. I'm going to go ahead and back up everybody's recommendation of Redcoat. Like all you guys, I wasn't really sure about the Ghost Machine stuff, but I've really liked everything that I've read so far. Also, Destro number 3 is out this week. It's not my favorite Energon G.I. Joe book, but it's solid enough for me.
I thought the first half of the book was pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, I think the first half is good. I am recommending that you not buy, but maybe go pirate Wolverine Revenge just to read the weirdest book tonally that has come out in years. So I do recommend taking a look at it, but not paying money for it. So just flip through it at your shop while you're there buying G.I. Joe. Also, Wes and I talked about this on the podcast. We talked about this in one of our videos. Larry Hama has a book out called Mounties versus Werewolves. We're encouraging everybody, even if the concept doesn't interest you, Larry is going to deliver a good story because that's what Larry does. And I feel like, he's been screwed so badly by the industry that wherever we can help him out, we should. So go check that book out and back it. And of course, go back HH's latest Here Comes Calico book.
100%. Next up, we got Sully.
Hello.
Are we back to doing videos again? Or
yeah, I'm coming up. I get my first video back tomorrow. I took a couple of weeks off.
Absolutely.
I had some family stuff to go through, and I'm back in the saddle again. Let's put it that way.
Are we doing salami sandwiches in Predator Week?
We might be. Let's see. I got a bag full of funny books. I've got 7 books this week from my local comic book shop, which I go to every Wednesday. 5 were on my pull list, 2 from the shelves. I'm picking up Get Fury number 4. That was pretty good. You know what I mean? It's only got 2 issues left. It's the end of Act 2. We've got Nightclub number 2. I got the Jay Lee variant cover. And I also got a retweet from Mark Millar himself because he loves seeing pictures of his funny books out in the wild. Joshua Williamson's Superman. I've got every issue. It's one of my favorite DC comics, and I'll be reading this as long as he is writing it. One of my favorite books, is Local Man. Why? The floppy itself. It's a flip book. You can only do this in the serialized floppy medium. It doesn't collect like this, in the trade paperbacks. You don't flip it over. And I think that's a wonderful approach, and it's a fun story. And Local Man, I look forward to it every month. I got Destro number 3. I got Ultimate Spider-Man number 8 that we didn't even really talk about. I mean, I almost pulled this off of my pull list, and this issue got me interested again and seeing what's next. There's not a lot of action, but there's a lot of characters, and it's got my interest once again. So let's go forward. And
watching what's his face.
And G.I. Joe 309. And this is fun. It's Larry Hama, and it just fits with all the old G.I. Joe books I've ever read growing up over these past 40 years of it coming out. And it's look forward to it every month. And those are my comic books. I spent about $28 at my local comic book store this week. And next week I need more supplies. Like I pick up my boxes, my boards, and my bags at my local comic book shop. With my pull list, I get 10% off of supplies. So see at your local comic book shop, you can see if they got a deal for you,
Very nice.
Thank you.
Good pull there. And I do want to say thank you very much to everybody that watched the Kurt Swan video. I've gotten just really great feedback on that one. I was surprised that it's something not everyone's interested in, but it seems like the people that watched it really did enjoy it, and I will try to do more of those. Now let's get to Doc. Do you recommend any new comic books, specifically Jenny Spark #1? Nope, Doc is gone.
Nope, sorry, hit the wrong button. I don't know if I necessarily recommend Jenny Sparks #1. I know I'm going to get
full Perch on this one.
I know I'm going to get.
Hey! Stop.
I know I'm going to end up Tom King'd in the end with that book, but there was a few pages in there that actually gave me hope, and you know what? The art's actually pretty good. But instead, I will recommend this book, which is significantly better, and it also has Jenny Sparks in it. So, The Authority #1. I'm going to recommend this again. I've recommended it before. I'm going to recommend it again because it is significantly better. And there's at least one scene in Jenny Sparks #1 that is referenced from this issue, where Kaizen Gamora's people are trying to destroy London. So, I'm going to recommend The Authority #1. Then I was doing some back issue shopping this week, and I picked this up. ASM, what is this? What is it? 245. So I'm going to recommend this. It's, I love those Hobgoblin stories in the 200s after he's first introduced. This is the second Hobgoblin already, and it's like 8 issues after the first appearance of the Hobgoblin. So yeah, it's already the second Hobgoblin. This is not Roderick Kingsley. This is the other one whose name I'm blanking on. So this, and then finally, since Perch is here, we will go with some old X-Men, specifically X-Men #12. It is the first appearance of the Juggernaut. And it's a really good book. I mean, and it's the actual Juggernaut, not that terrible panty waste of a character that they are using in Jed McKay's X-Men book. Because I have no idea who the fuck that guy is, but it's not the Juggernaut. This one, he's actually kind of a bastard. And, Kane Marco is a really complex character. The Juggernaut itself is a wonderfully interesting, entity that, honestly, I think I could go for a couple of little more Juggernaut series where it really explores the nature of Sidorak and Kane Marco and the power that comes with it, and him being essentially a god of war. So yes, Juggernaut #12. So those are my recommendations for the week.
Very nice.
Very, very cool. Enjoyed the show. I hope everyone had a good time. And remember, Comics by Perch, Jenny Sparks, #1. If you don't like the book, he will refund your money himself. He's that behind the book and how great it was.
Well, fortunately, since so few people bought it, I'm not writing a big check. So that works.
What about an Obby's gift certificate?
Yeah, there you go.
Here we go.
I'll take my
If you're shitting on me, I'm going to give you food poisoning. How's that sound? No, thank you for having me on. Thank you for being able to chat with everybody, and thank you for the people who give me crap in the comments. I really don't mind. It's fun. I enjoy it. That's the fights we should have. By the way, some people, it's not a new comic, but since Doc went there, Ranma 1/2 is a hell of an enjoyable series, and I know we got a couple fanboys in the comments right here. Clone Geek right there. Ranma 1/2 is a wonderful is a masterclass of how a writer, in this case Rumiko Takahashi, can do characterization and stories and juggle a big cast and do action, romance, and comedy all simultaneously. It's good stuff. So hope you enjoy it.
Very nice. What's up?
I just want to bring something up since Doc was talking about Juggernaut. Does everybody remember when Juggernaut banged She-Hulk?
Yep.
Yes, they destroyed that bed.
I just want to go on record as saying that once you go Juggernaut, you are physically unable to go back.
There you go. And also, we are getting the return of Juggy to a new teen superhero book in Marvel soon. So don't look forward to that. It's going to be awesome.
Man, when she transforms back into her human form from She-Hulk, that thing's just got to be hanging like
fucking meat curtains.
Oh, God.